then regular meeting.
We're doing a budget presentation first.
I know we're gonna do that first, then we go to the meeting part, okay. So we just
Unless you just want to leave it all open.
So,
Either way, however, you might want to restart because nothing was, your mic's not on and.
okay. Well, it's 8 o'clock. We have the judges here. Who would like to begin? Kurt? Patrick?
We'll let him up here. The youngest always gets the... Adam was glad to give it up, weren't you, Adam? I was. Yeah, see, they told me this was a privilege. I don't know. They told me this was a privilege.
I don't really know what we're doing.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, well, I would like to cover a couple things. Part of the reason I am going first is because the amount of change you will see in my could see that the net bottom line actually reduced. Tax was actually a little bit smaller than last year. Maybe if you put employee salary request in there, that would balance out. Some of these first where that shows up is this much. Reduces a little bit. Why is that the case? One,
You can't see.
I don't understand we are responsibility. Thank you. I had not actually, I'd been on the bench for about 6 months. So I was still even figuring out what was in the budget. So I didn't ask for anything different than what Judge Brown had done. I moved some things around. The real catalyst for that actually was something that I did bring up last year, which is that we were spending a fairly considerable amount of money on a subscription through Thomson Reuters for Westlaw to keep books for the courts. It also covered prosecutor's office, public defender's office was getting some. And that subscription was coming to an end towards the end of last year. I spent more hours than I would hope I would ever have to do trying to get them to engage with me in a discussion about what we actually wanted as opposed to what we were paying for. And I got basically no response. So I axed the whole thing. Now, and part of the reason I bring that up is because their left hand doesn't talk to their right hand or their foot or whatever else is going on. They very recently still tried to send a bill, which we sent back along with the letter that Neil Blythe and I had signed saying we're canceling or not renewing this contract that ends in November of 2025 because you didn't talk to me for the last 6 months. So they still think they're supposed to get paid, but there's a very clear paper trail of us canceling that contract and telling them that there's no money for them after November. We did pay them up through that period. So I'd say there's a line item in here. See if I can identify it for you. It's account 22410, legal reference materials. I reduced that significantly. Now what I did do, and this is why you don't see a $30,000 adjustment on the bottom line, is I moved that around to some other areas where I'm actually seeing adjustment in the way that I'm doing things and some of the things that I'm doing. A big one, and all the courts are dealing with this, is that we have now entered a subscription for FTR. For the record, we used to do only locally. Our event last fall realized, made apparent a gap that we could fill through FTR, which is that the transcribing of the court proceedings are stored in a cloud that's held by FTR. So we not only have them locally, but FTR backs them up and guarantees them on that side. And coming with that comes live transcription. We're bringing a lot of that into the 21st century. Now, getting that all up and running has taken some other expenses and some work because we had to bring some equipment up to speed. In my courtroom, some of that came from the capital improvement project, which I'll talk about it in a minute. Circuit had to do their own. Fortunately, Superior One had most of it already in place. But actually seeing that run so far, we're still working out bugs, but it is a improvement and a help because we literally have live transcription happening. So that's one of the places I moved. The other places I moved some things around relative to what's happened. The big thing actually since, well, November of 25 through April of this year, I swore in 6 juries, all criminal cases. There is actually right now a civil jury impaneled upstairs in my courtroom right now. Senior Judge Wallace is covering that because tomorrow I'll be wearing a green uniform. So I couldn't be here for the entirety of the week. I'm grateful to him that we have retired judges here in this county who are still willing to come sit and do things like a trial. That's not a small ask, but so that's 7 juries. Judge Brown had the blessing of the last few years he was on the bench, he had none. So for everything, there's a season, and we've hit that season where they are going. And those come with their own expenses. Those jurors get paid. We have expenses related to those and some other things back up. So some of that is hitting here, and I'm trying to account for that. In some years, what that'll mean is where I've budgeted for those, we just won't have to spend it because they just won't happen. But I prefer to try to account for that and be able to come back and say we didn't spend all the money that we were allotted as opposed to having to come back and try to figure out where to ask for money that may or may not be there at that time. Okay. So I mentioned the capital improvement project, which was a major courtroom tech upgrade in my courtroom. That is nearing completion. I know even the last couple of days as they actually tried to implement it in a full jury trial, encountered, and this is just, you work out those bugs by putting it through the paces. They encountered some more of those things based on Logan, where we're responsive and we're able to help get some of those things sorted. It is, I would call it 90% operational. There's still some things that New Era owes us that they are working on getting fixed. But if you have a chance and you want to pop up there and see it, I'll show you and put it through the paces. It is, as I asked, and I appreciate the council funding it very much. I appreciate it very much what you see in Superior One, only in a much smaller space, just because of the size of the courtroom. But it helps us manage that space so much better because I don't have that mobile screen in there anymore, and so it improves that quite a bit. Other thing that's going on right now, I was able to secure a grant from Indiana Office of Court Services. They last year put out a call and asked for applications in 2 areas, technology and courthouse security. We actually put in asks on all of those things and asked for as much as they possibly would get us. We got 1, and they granted it to my courtroom. But what I'm building is what we're calling court in a box. Our experience last fall illustrated the need to be able to be flexible on the technology side in order to have a courtroom up and running. And so they granted us $35,000 for me to be able to buy computers, Polycom, scanners, printers, cradle points, basically the technology that's needed in order to put the courtroom up and operational. In theory being, this was the idea, have them in Pelican boxes so they're stationed somewhere away from the courthouse. So if we had courthouse was shut down for whatever reason, emergency, fire, God forbid something else, or internet's down or whatever else is preventing those things can be stood up and they'll run off of cradle points on their own. So they can be done, can be stood up in the courtroom. We still have building. We simply don't have the technology. Or if needed to borrow space from the high school or from 4-H or whatever in order to have a functioning courtroom. It's set up in there and run. The system is designed to be split so that when it's all together, it's got enough going on that it's like no beat was missed, even having station potentially for a clerk to be able to run, that becomes essential. And otherwise, it also can be split apart, so you could have like 2 smaller cells, if you will. So that's the concept. I'm in the process of trying to source and buy those things. Continuing ongoing costs for the county will be minimal. Once it's put together and built, which they're covering through the grant money, the ongoing cost would be maintaining the cradle points and whatever maintenance might go along with the technology there. I already mentioned the FTR and the upgrade in my courtroom. Are there questions? Nothing. I usually tell my 4-H students when they stare back at me like that, either I'm a really good teacher or a really bad one.
Okay, on your grants, that is not applied to what we've done so far, right?
No. So that's separately side, and Susan set up, so the way the grant actually comes in, so she had to educate me on this a little bit. It's a reimburse. So she set up account when I need to get with you because I'm ready to pull the trigger on some of these things. But we make the purchase and then we submit receipt to ILCS and they pay us back up to $35,000. And that's what I say, the ongoing cost, the only ongoing cost beyond this calendar year that I can immediately see is maintaining the cradle points. And talking to BESA, like the subscription we would get on those would be minimal. Because basically we wouldn't pay for a bunch of data that we aren't using. We would pay to have them operational. And if we got to the point we had to pull data, then we would look at whether or not we would change what the subscription level is. Let's just keep them running. And then basic maintenance on, but in the short term, the equipment's all going to be brand new. So it would be taking care of itself for a period of years.
And this is for your courtroom only?
It will be, yes, it will be owned, quote unquote, by my courtroom because that's where Court Services gave the grant. But from my perspective, it's available to all of the courts, and that's part of the reason why I designed the 2 cells, so that in theory, we could set up 2 small courtrooms, if you will, and 1 large one. Obviously, if we were facing an event of that level where all 3 courts had no access to their systems, everything's going to get pared down anyway, right? We'd be running on essentials only. Any things that could be delayed would be delayed. Okay. I'm going to yield to my colleagues.
Thank you, sir.
Been nominated to go next. The changes for the Superior Court 1 budget are very small this year, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about those changes. I want to use some of my time to talk about some of the more big picture items. I have requested in the Superior Court 1 budget that the staff overtime be increased to an increase of about $4,000 and some change. In order to get all of their work done, my staff has been working a not insignificant amount of overtime, and I'd rather ask for what we need rather than have to move money around later. We similarly requested the software licensing for FTR Plus. That's something that you'll see in all 3 courts. The CASA allocation that was listed in the Superior Court 1 budget last year has been removed. I believe that Judge Grimm is going to talk more about our shift from using both CASA and guardian ad litems, and these are primarily in those courts, especially circuit court, to guardian ad litems only. CASA will not be operating in DeKalb County. Judge Grimm similarly is going to address court staff wages. We discussed the comments that he intends to make, and I agree with them, but I'm not going to separately address them to avoid repetition. I do want all of you to please keep in mind moving forward that, as Judge Jessup mentioned, a lot more trials are happening in Superior Court 2. The more trials that happen there, the more we see and appreciate that that courtroom is simply inadequate. It is way too small to be doing 12-person jury trials. It's very uncomfortable. And so as things unfold moving forward into the future, and there are discussions about moving various county offices around, please keep that in mind. That's going to be an important issue for us down the road. As many of you know, the case allocation of Superior Court 1 is almost exclusively criminal. And I know that you're going to hear from Community Corrections and Probation later today. And I'd like to address in broad terms from my perspective a few points that relate to those departments. When I took the bench in 2021, DeKalb County was routinely paying other counties, other surrounding counties, hundreds of thousands of dollars per year to house our inmates due to jail overcrowding. It was not unusual in 2018, 2019, 2020 for there to be over 110 inmates, 120, 130 even, well in excess of the jail capacity, which I believe is in the 80s. Through a lot of hard work from the treatment courts, more fully utilizing community corrections, and through our pretrial services program, we now have no inmates in other jails and haven't in some time. Our jail population has been at a relatively healthy number for the last several years through the efforts of the judges, probation, and community corrections. When it comes to pretrial services, that's the newest of those programs. And the basic concept is that instead of holding people in jail who might not be appropriate in the community under the old way of doing things, where essentially there's either a money bail that's posted without any real requirements of any substance, or the person is held in jail because they can't make their money bail until the criminal case is resolved. Instead of doing it that way, people who are not dangerous, so long as they're being supervised and receive appropriate services that are tailored to their specific needs, can be released while being supervised pre-trial by community corrections. And if the person follows the rules and does what they're required to do, then they can remain in the community. If they violate the orders, the terms can either be adjusted to meet their needs, or most commonly, they're put back in jail. It has evolved as an excellent process to ensure that the county is only paying to house those who need to be there while their cases are being resolved. Similarly, our treatment courts do an excellent job of helping people break the cycles of addiction where other programs have traditionally been less successful. I can talk about that more, but in the interest of time, if you ask me to talk about it, I will, but I'll move on to some of the other issues. We are also better utilizing the residential work facility, where people live at the facility across town and are able to work while receiving the services that they need, as well as home detention. Of course, the goal is to not only reduce the number of people who need to be housed at the jail, but also offer services so that their issues are more fully addressed, with the goal of reducing recidivism. Of course, we want to do what we can to prevent people from committing new crimes. That's where the real cost savings comes in, because if we can have less people that are coming through the system repeatedly, that's less money that we have to spend dealing with the downstream costs. I bring these things up because the state funding is very much in flux right now, as all of you know, and we appreciate the county's help in keeping these programs functioning at a high level under the excellent leadership of Michael Lapham and Michelle Fosnaugh. And so our request is that you do what you can to keep these things at the high level that they're at. Questions?
If we were to lose, most likely.
Correct.
Right now, the majority of our jail population remain. Those people have to be the ones that
we have to offer in DeKalb County in our justice system.
These that cannot meet bail and you release, or you can release them on that case that they're not violent, does the community correction monitors, or who monitors them when you do it?
Community corrections monitors them. So one example of a situation would be someone has a need for addiction treatment. They might be placed at a place like Serenity House or Hearten House with some other services in place. Community corrections would check in with them periodically, receive documentation to verify that they're doing the treatment that they're required to do, that they remain at the facility that they're required to be at to ensure that they're complying with the court's order.
They don't put a ban on them or anything at
They
the
can.
monitor.
They can. That is one of the options for pretrial release. I would say it is not frequently used, but there are some situations where it's appropriate.
Thank you.
Sure.
What kind of efficiencies are you seeing? Well, you guys are using the FTR program at this point?
FTR Plus is live in Superior Court 1.
Okay,
They just upgraded Circuit Court so that it can be utilized in the immediate future, but I don't know that they're there quite yet.
okay,
And I believe that
Okay.
Superior Court 2 is similarly in the process of implementing that right now.
okay. Just wondering about the efficiencies that's bringing to the courts.
I
like
can
for you guys.
answer to that. It creates among the other things, like Judge Jessup talked about, it creates an AI-created transcript of every hearing as it's happening. Now, it's not perfect by any means. In order to be a finished product, there's quite a bit of editing that needs to be done. But it gives us something to start from that really helps us out quite a bit. The process of creating transcripts by our court reporters, I believe, is going to be shortened significantly. I just had one that became ripe to start, so I'll be able to tell you more about that after Ashley works her way through that. But I believe that that's going to help those kind of things significantly. Thank you. Judge Grimm.
Sure.
So this morning, I got here very early, and after I prepared my hearings for today, I took a look at my budget. For the first time, it dawned on me, this will be the 10th time that I have come down here for budget hearings, and it does not seem that. And out of all the things that would pop into my mind, I thought to myself, the people in DeKalb County have bought me a tremendous number of blue pens. I only use this kind of pen, and I'm a copious note taker. I can't even imagine how many pens you have bought. That actually has a little bit to do with the question about, for the record, FTR. We have the most enhanced version now. The problem was that before the sound system upgrades in Superior Court 1 and Superior Court 2, Circuit Court had the most antiquated equipment there was, okay? It's still largely true. To the extent that we would have an issue with anything in the sound system, some of that equipment is now not repairable. In other words, unless you can resurrect Marconi, we're not going to be able to fix it. So it's an alert for you that the sound system in Circuit Court needs to be upgraded as well. There had to be a decision made, and they talked about it, where we would go next. I probably would have thought it would have been me until, because of this very small courtroom issue, and I had to trade off with Judge Jessup numerous times, and I got stuck in his courtroom, and I realized it may be newer, but it's bad. And that was part of the thought process. It was almost impossible to conduct hearings for me in his courtroom, so it was glaringly apparent that it needed to be addressed. The thing about the FTR that we have, though, that it has a couple of other things that really, really are functionally advantageous. Remember I said I took a lot of notes? Well, I do. But when I do every kind of case you can imagine. My jurisdiction is all kinds of things. Judges are never going to be able to get notes 100% accurate. And if you're doing a divorce case with lots of property, lots of values, conflicting values, appraisals and stuff like that, you do the best you can. but it used to be it was just being recorded. And I can't hear the recording when they're played back, so that's also a problem, which means I have to have the court reporter type it up for me. I cannot hear it. This generates a real-time transcript, which means that when I go back to do orders in any kind of case, with the press of a button, they can give me the testimony in the courtroom, and it increases the accuracy level tremendously, which people deserve. In other words, accuracy is important. It avoids motion to correct errors, further hearings, all kinds of things. But a lot of the mistakes the judges can make never get fixed. It doesn't make them right. It just means they never get fixed. This brings a lot of accuracy to it. The other thing that it does, we don't have this stuff, okay? But the other thing that it does, it will allow basically closed captioning of the hearings for people who are hearing impaired. In other words, there can literally be a monitor on the council table where it will display the spoken word as it's being spoken. Slight delay. In fact, I have one, I don't want to say the name, I have one deputy prosecutor because of the size of the courtroom and the acoustics and everything is now, you know, we all get old. It's hard to hear, and it's become an issue. I have made arrangements already with IT to get a laptop to have that in real time for her. She does a lot of hearings in my courtroom, and she'll be able now to see the spoken word in print across her screen. We're going to do it at least at that level for her. It's a reasonable accommodation and I think appropriate. It's just a great thing. So it was time. Most of the counties around here have that and have had it for quite some time. But there are just a lot of advantages to it. So it's not working great in my courtroom. Originally, we were told that it would work, okay? And it turned out that it would not work with the really old equipment. And so they made some arrangements to get some equipment into my courtroom to make it work, and I thought we were good, and then all of a sudden it popped into my head to ask the question, the pieces of equipment you're going to put in there, will they be compatible with a fully upgraded system when we have to do it, because we know we will? The answer was no. Not acceptable to me. In other words, if we're going to spend the money, we need to make sure we get the stuff that will then work with what else we're going to need in the future. That caused some more delay. The acoustics are bad. The sound isn't great right now. They've got more people coming to get that dialed in. So that's the FTR thing. I'm excited about it. It just does a lot of things. It will make me do my work better, more efficiently, and more accurately. But it accommodates people as well who struggle to hear in that big book. I don't know how much I really need to add to the lack of potential funding for community corrections and pretrial release. Maybe a little bit that I would call to your work release is a good thing in my opinion. In other words, the idea that people maintain their jobs and work and contribute to the cost of their incarceration is a good thing across the board. Some of us are old enough to remember the Andy Griffith Show, and that's the first I remember work release. Andy had it for Otis, and Otis, there were different versions of it. Otis would just lock himself up in the cell after he went on a bender on a Friday night, and then he'd let himself out the next day. But there were episodes where Otis had to serve a longer period of time and some farmer needed some help or something like that, and Andy would let him out during the day and he would come back. And it's really been a thing for us for a very long time. It is really, to my mind, a vital part of what we do in the criminal justice. Strict incarceration certainly is appropriate under certain circumstances, and some people really should not be released from society to go to work and come back. They shouldn't. But we use it in other ways as well. One of the ways I use it is in the Family Restoration Court and Veterans Court. I may have to sanction someone, but we have just spent an awful lot of time, say, trying to get a veteran moving from homeless to having a home, moving from jobless to having a job, and the last thing I want to do, need to get his attention. The last thing I really want to do is put him in jail and the job goes away again, and we're back to step one. I'm allowed to use it even on short duration out there for sanctions. It's a special arrangement we have with. The other thing I would like to talk about just briefly is in relation to pretrial release. I get almost all, of the felony non-support cases. Those can be basically at two levels. Level 6, first time, level 5, second time. A lot of times what you have is a person who is not raping, pillaging, or plundering. They are not paying their child support, which means the child is not receiving the money it needs to be fed and clothed. Mom's not receiving any assistance, and that needs to be remedied. Regardless of how you look at it, you can never lose sight of the fact that the purpose of that law is to force people forcibly to pay their child support. If you put them in jail, the law requires that we give them a zero support obligation because they're incarcerated, and of course they're not working, and you have defeated your purpose by putting them in jail. Sometimes you just have to. I mean, there are consequences for your action, you know, if you can't get the message. What pretrial release did, though, was created a separate program for pretrial release for non-support cases that requires people to apply for jobs, verify they apply for jobs. They're building a work one component into it now, with the goal that when people are pretrial released in non-support cases, we're trying to get them a job. We're trying to get them employed. Because if that can be accomplished and we can get some consistency there, it is not uncommon that the prosecutor will offer somebody a fully suspended sentence and just probation to monitor and make sure that they continue to maintain those habits that they've learned. It's a good example of taking the system and then addressing individually the unique needs that we have in the community. So to me, it is a vital component of what we do. I really don't know what we would do, given our existing jail facility and the way work release is, you know, as a general rule, and I'm no expert, but I practiced law for 30 years before I was a judge and went around all the different counties. If you're going to have a work release program, you really need to separate those populations, people coming in and out, potential contraband and things like that, versus commingling with people who are there and are staying there. We just don't have that functionality. So what I would tell you based on 10 years is it is a vital component, I think. It is worthy of saving. But I don't know how that gets done. And I think you have to solve it. I started thinking about what the solution would be, and I don't. All I can really tell you is, yes, I do really honestly believe it's important. It should be said. I don't know what the bottom line is going to be. Nobody does. All right.
Can I ask you one more question then?
Soapbox is kicked aside.
Okay. Hey, just one more question about, you mentioned earlier that you were moving away from CASA, and I can see in your budget that you're increasing for the GAL, guardian ad litem. What's the thinking behind that?
That was where I was actually going to go now. I kicked myself.
Oh, okay.
Perfectly timed question.
Perfect.
It is.
We're thinking alike.
If you really look at my submitted budget, it's less than last year. Okay. But that is a significant increase on the GAL portion of what I'm doing. I think I've told the story before that when I became judge, Corey Swagger had just been selected the guardian ad litem. The longtime guardian ad litem, if I'm not mistaken, was Judge Schooler's father-in-law, Hugh Taylor. Very well respected, very good guardian ad litem. I didn't know Corey Swagger at all, and I was somewhat of the mind that I was not going to keep him. That didn't happen. I was convinced that he was absolutely outstanding. And what I respect from people is people that actually put the work in. In other words, they don't just skirt around the edges and then come in and try to convince me that they've done something. I needed to see it on the ground. I did. He's excellent. So we did make a shift, and I don't really want to get in too deeply into the reasons for that because it could be perceived as disparaging, and I don't think that's necessary. Okay. But guardian ad litems used to be somewhat undefined in terms of qualification. Okay, a judge would just look for somebody they thought they'd make a good guardian ad litem and they could appoint them. That's not the case anymore in Indiana. That changed not that long ago. Now they have to be certified and they have to be trained and have to go through rather extensive training at their own expense. Mr. Swagger has done that. Several other lawyers in the county have done that. And that increased the quality of the guardian ad litem work. And the guardian ad litems, their sole function in the courtroom is to represent the best interest of the children. Get the child's voice in front of the court. They don't represent parents. They don't represent the DCS, for instance. They get the child's voice in front of the court. And you frequently have a small child who doesn't have much of a voice of their own. And the court needs to know that to make solid decisions about the future of the child. What I had observed with CASA was that, and if you remember, I came here and I wanted it desperately because I loved the concept. It was mothers and fathers who would volunteer, aunts and uncles who would volunteer, grandpas and grandmas who would volunteer, and it gave me the voice of the people on behalf of the children, and the people were in our community. I saw a transition to where all the CASA people were professionals being hired by CASA and paid by CASA, and I was no longer seeing the cross-section of our community. And at that point, it seemed to me that if somebody was going to decide who the professional person that got hired would be, I'd rather it be me than delegate it out and let somebody else decide and potentially have some control over what those people are saying. I had lost the genuineness of what I want. So what I have done is greatly increase Mr. Swagger's workload. Okay, and he can do it. He's a rarity. I don't think he can be replaced, just so you know. I'm not aware of any other lawyer who would be available for that job due to their schedules and stuff like that. He's literally, to my knowledge, irreplaceable. The other thing is that when you have a non-lawyer guardian ad litem, they are entitled to have the court appoint them counsel to represent them, who are then representing the children, and that increases the expense. Mr. Swagger is all in one package. He is a licensed attorney. I never have to appoint a lawyer to represent the guardian ad litem. Overall, what you see is, because we've taken out the matching grant, we've taken out the individual court contributions and stuff, the cost is less. But the coverage is very good. So it depends on how you want to look at the numbers. But in reality, we got everything we need now with Mr. Swagger. He needs to be compensated more because of the greatly increased workload being placed on him. And overall, we're spending less to do that. Does that answer your question? Okay. I don't know how to put it any other way than it was just one of those judge executive decisions, and things have changed. That was really what it was. Over the course of 10 years, I was no longer seeing what I had originally wanted and envisioned. It had changed. I think that's the only major big thing in my budget. Alert, alert, alert. Yes, we're going to have to upgrade the sound system, the circuit. We still have the cables laying across the carpet. Look underneath the judge's bench when you're up there sometime. I have to get tangled up in these cables. They're just all wadded up and dragged around up there. I have never actually fallen. I have drug stuff off the bench by hooking it with my size 12, but I've never actually fallen. But I have had 2 lawyers trip on the cable and fall. Neither one of them were injured. So the cables need to be buried like they are in the other courtrooms. They're a little hazardous. But it could just be so much better. But the good news is that when they did put the additional equipment in so that we could use the FPR, we did catch it in time so that the equipment's there will not be wasted. In other words, it will be utilizable in the forward moving system. I don't have anything else. Anybody have any questions? No? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Sir. Okay, moving on. We already opened the meeting, so at this point in time, we'll have an opening prayer by Amy Prosser.
You would pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, we just are so grateful to you for your grace and your mercy and for just the beautiful weather and the people that you've drawn here today, Lord, to provide wisdom and guidance to our county as we move forward with our budget. Lord, I ask that you would just again give us your wisdom to make the very best decisions for DeKalb County. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Would you please stand for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we've had, trust everybody's had a chance to look over the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Motion by Amy Dembski. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Rick Ring. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the June 10th, 2026 meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you. Okay, next we have several additionals that we need to take a look at. The first comes to us from Developmental Services. The fund name is GIS Specialist. Fund number is 1001. Account number 11521. Account title GIS Specialist. Total amount requested is $21,000. Was this included in the annual budget request? And the answer is no. The reason it was not included was that the position was created on June 10th of 2026. How will this appropriation be used? It'll be to pay for the GIS Specialist, expecting to start August 1. This is a reoccurring expense, and the answer is yes. Will other expenditures be necessary? Pardon me. The answer is no. Was it discussed with the liaison? And that answer is yes, and the liaison was Bill Van Wy. Do we have a motion to approve the $21,000 for the GIS Specialist?
So moved.
We have a motion by Bill Van Wy, second by Rick Ring. Any further discussion from the council?
I was just gonna make a comment, this position was brought on because Auburn going away for using their, I don't know what it's called anymore, but it's because Auburn wanted to divide it by DeKalb, we had to have a replacement. Auburn did this for this, whatever this guy's gonna do. So.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the $21,000 for the GIS Specialist signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. The next request comes to us from Central Communication. And first part is from Cume Cap, fund number 1138, account number 44430. The account title is Equipment. The total amount requested was $121,784. Was this included in the annual budget? And the answer is no. The item has been on a 5-year plan for several years. The reason it was not included. How will this appropriation be used? It'll be used for replacement of battery backup systems that are at end of the service life and no longer available to be under maintenance plan. Specific cost is $121,784. How was this cost determined? It was from a quote received from CM Buck. Is this a reoccurring expense? And the answer is no. Will other expenditures be necessary? The answer is no. Was it discussed with the liaison? And that answer is yes. And the liaison's name is Rick Ring. We have an additional request, and I'm going to read that one second. And again, this is from Central Communication. The amount is $85,807 from the CUME cap. Fund number is 1138. Account number 44430. Account title is Equipment. Was this included in the annual budget request? And the answer is no. The item has been on the 5-year plan again for several years. How will this appropriation be used? It'll be used for the replacement of complete HVAC system, all furnaces and AC units at the end of the service life. Specific cost of the items, $85,807. How was this cost determined? A quote was received from Auburn Heating and Cooling. Is this a reoccurring expense? The answer is no. Will other expenditures be necessary? The answer is no. Was it discussed with the liaison? And the answer is yes, and that was Rick Ring. Brian, do you want to come up, address any issues or possible concerns or anything that we might have overlooked?
I'd like to request, as these have been on the 5-year plan for multiple years, all of the HVAC systems, they are at the end of manufacturer life. Will they last a little longer? Maybe. I don't want to be in a situation where we're doing one AC unit, one furnace. That becomes a nightmare for maintenance department. I did speak with Larry Lane, and he was on board with doing it as one complete project. Auburn Heating and Cooling did give us the best price. I've gotten quotes in the past that were significantly higher. Plus, if we do it now, we will be saving anywhere between 10 and 15, possibly 20%. Because if we wait till next year, prices are going to be that 10 or 15 to 20 plus more. So I'm trying to save as much money for the county as possible by trying to get this done now. The same thing with the UPS backup system. A few years ago, we went through and did a lot of upgrades, got it under maintenance contract. We are now at the point where these systems will not be offered any maintenance contracts beyond this year. It's the same thing, 10, 15, 20% of where the cost is going to go by the end of the year, possibly more after the first of the year. And these are critical. Some people think, well, it's just a battery. Well, a very large system. There's one that handles all of our radios. And this has to have enough power to fill that gap in that 3 to 5 seconds or more before the generator kicks in. If the generator doesn't kick in, we lose all of our radios. The other system handles all of our computers. Same thing. If the system isn't functional and the generator doesn't start, which it always has, we're dead in the water. Like I said, I'm just trying to save as much money as possible and getting these projects done now. Does anybody have questions about it?
The battery backup system is essential. That is vital to his operation. Now, so's the heating and air conditioning.
Yes.
But not quite as vital as that battery backup. We cannot afford to lose, and it's expensive, but it also shows the importance of having that 5-year cum cap plan so that things like this don't sneak up on you. It has been on the agenda for a number of years, I think probably more than 5, but maybe not. That's the only way we can plan. That's the only way we can plan. And if we can save some money here and make more money available next year, that'd be great. But we don't want a situation where this stuff fails and all of a sudden we have to do it, and we have to do it now. So.
Also, I did just get a quote for because we can put them under maintenance for 1 more year, but that's gonna cost us just shy of $18,000. So anything I'm trying to save will be spent, and then we're gonna spend that extra on top whenever we can get this approved.
I know both Brian and Rick make a good point on a 5-year plan. I mean, this is not a surprise. We knew this was coming. It's just one of those things you hope it just kind of keeps.
Everything keeps getting pushed off.
But there is a due date, so we appreciate your diligence on this, and thanks, Rick, for keeping us updated there. Now, the total, real quick, Amy, the total cost on this is $207,591 for both of those. Amy?
Oh, you had mentioned that you had gotten other quotes. What were the other quotes?
The previous quotes were for Masters out of Fort Wayne, and they were upwards of 200,000. And then,
For the total, is that for like the total?
oh,
both?
I'm sorry, for the HVAC, I got previous from Masters, and that was around 200,000,
You say previous was like just recently?
within the last year.
Within the last year.
As far as the,
Anybody else locally? Did you just get 2 quotes then? Just
Yes, just got
Masters
the 2.
and then Auburn Heating and Cooling?
Yep.
So just those 2?
yes. And then as far as the UPS, I did not get a different one because CM Buck and Schneider Electric are the ones that originally installed the system. They're familiar with our building. And I felt it best to stick with who we have been using. They have serviced us well, and they've always made sure our system's top-notch.
Do we have any kind of, like, is there a threshold where we have to get quotes for this type of work for, like, that one you were mentioning is 121,000? I thought that there was you have to get quotes at, like, at 50?
Threshold's 250.
$250? So would we have to request something for the CM Buck one then? I mean, do we need to go back and do that? I want to make sure that we're getting, and I appreciate you wanting to use people who are familiar, but sometimes that becomes.
Well, and I want to make sure we're doing things properly.
Correct.
I
Absolutely, I do
never
too.
made aware of any
And I want to do it
thresholds.
at the best cost. So do, $200.
Is that combined?
They're-
That's combined.
But
So do we need to have those quoted
it's 2 separate.
by additional people? Is that what you're saying?
You have to issue an RFP, publication
Sure. Yeah,
The UPS themselves is 121,000. Then the HVAC was the 85,807. So
that one's under that one.
well, and if it's 100 or 125,
No,
no, these are separate
two
projects.
different projects. The HVAC system is less than 100,000.
So I see code 52283, purchases between 50,000 and 150. The purchasing agent expects the purchase to be at least 50 or under 150, and that is when they would have to mail an invitation to quote to persons interested within 7 days.
Anything between 50 and 150?
so both of those.
And that would be just receiving quotes, not sealed bids. No, it's not sealed bid.
Not sealed bid.
250 for sealed bid.
Yeah.
So both of those projects would need to go quoted.
Not the HVAC. That's 80-something.
Didn't you say between 50?
50 and 100.
Between 50 and 150? So both of those would need to be quoted.
So do you have,
It's an additional-
quotes? Did you receive quotes that you didn't advertise?
No, after talking with Larry, we went with what was local and what we've used before. We have that previous one from Masters that's a year or so old. That was, I believe, right around 200,000 for their HVAC replacement.
Yeah.
Well, you probably should get updated quotes, I would say.
Okay, we can do that, no
And
problem.
in the future, this kind of addresses one of the things that the commissioners have been working with, in that Larry would be responsible for all of our buildings as far as its maintenance. So the HVA system would be something that Larry would be involved in. The battery backup would be totally within Brian's, but
That's why I made sure to include their.
you did talk with Larry, so you probably should get these things updated.
Okay.
For each of these, because they're between 50 and 150, he has to request quotes from at least. Okay, but he doesn't have to receive three. Doesn't have to receive three, he has to request from three. Okay. And above 150 is when you publish for RFPs, and then it's 250 after get bids to the bids. And it's still he could take the best. He does not have to take the lowest, but he does have to take
Please don't do
what
that to
we
me.
would
Our
consider
plumbing's
to be
not an
the
issue.
best. He has to take the lowest and best. The best may not be the lowest, but if you don't approve the low bid, you have to give justification of why you did not approve. Yeah, there's no problem with that. I mean, if you're gonna accept something more than the lowest bid, you should have to justify it. But it should still be the best.
Well, Don, for you, is a simple email to 3 different companies okay, or do we need to do?
It doesn't say how you get the quotes or request them, it just says you have to request one.
Okay, I just don't want to waste anyone's time by not doing it.
Try and keep a paper trail.
Under
Do
50,000,
emails and get a paper trail.
no formal competitive
So
bidding
that
or RFP.
if anybody questions it, you can.
50 to 100.
Yeah.
can,
Formal
show
bidding
them.
isn't required, but the county must solicit and keep at least 3 written
No problem.
quotes on file.
Yes, ma'am.
And then
Actually, usually about 90 days, but Cody's very good, will work with us. He actually offered, he goes, if you guys aren't ready to install it right now, especially we wouldn't want to do it right now, they are more than happy to order the equipment and store it for us until, and the same thing with the UPS. They will order the equipment in and hold it for us in their warehouse until we are ready to move forward with it for the install. Yes.
Brian, the other,
Emergency provision, you can avoid these, but it doesn't sound like this.
We're not an emergent yet, we're just trying to get ahead of emergent.
is it important that you do both of these at the same time?
If you guys had to pick one, I would please ask you to do my UPS.
Okay.
We have fans. Like I said, I have some training in HVAC, just because it's at the manufacturer's end of service life. We all know somebody's got an AC unit or a furnace that's 20 or 30 years old still working. I just don't want us doing the onesie twosies, because that just makes a real nightmare for maintenance
I
and
agree with you on that.
warranty tracking and all that. So,
Don,
One project
are we
all
in
at once.
compliance now then with these 2 requests?
I will go back and get 3 quotes as fast as possible and get back in front of you guys as fast.
Okay, the 3 quotes for the heating and air?
I will do 3 quotes for both.
For
Since
both.
they're both between the
Okay.
50 and 150,000. and get those back to you guys as soon as possible. Thank you for asking that question, Amy.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to make sure we're doing everything above board. This is a lot of money.
Oh,
And
yes.
I agree that we should get it done, absolutely, but I want to make sure that we do it the right way.
Oh, yes.
No
I
question.
do not want to be on the wrong side of State Board of Accounts.
Correct.
So we've
Great,
not
thank
made
you.
a motion, so we can table, will you be able to have them by the next meeting, you think?
I should be able to get them back. The only one that may take a little longer will be the UPS because there's not many companies that do them. So,
Okay, so council will agree to table this to the next meeting. Susan, put it on next month's agenda, please. Brian, thank you. Pardon?
You need to make a motion to.
Do we need a motion to table this? Okay. Do we have a motion to table this to the next meeting till we get the three
I'll make that
quotes?
motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Rick Ring. Do we have a
I'll
second?
second.
Second by Amy Prosser. Any further discussion from the council? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of tabling this transfer or additional for $207,591 to the next meeting due to lack of three basically requests here. RFPs, we'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. The additional has been tabled to the next meeting.
you want to handle the third one?
Pardon?
You want to handle my third one?
He's up next.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, I do see the third one. It's in a different category. Thank you. We'll be happy to try and do that one. So, okay, we have a third one here for Central Communication. And this is from the fund name, Public Safety Lowett County Share, Fund Number 1170, account number 11499. The account title is Replacement Employee. The amount requested is $16,000. Was this included in the annual budget request? And the answer is no. And the reason it was not included, did not know the employee was retiring. How will this appropriation be used? Hire replacement employee to help offset staffing issues at the start of 2027. Specific cost of the item is $16,000. How was this cost determined? Calculation of hours to be worked by hourly pay. Excuse me. Is this a reoccurring expense? And the answer is no. Will other expenditures be necessary? The answer is no. Was it discussed with the liaison? And that is yes. And that liaison name was Rick Ring. Do we have a motion to approve the $16,000?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Rick Ring. Do we have a second? Second by Amy Dembski. Further discussion from the council?
I think we've kind of mentioned that, we've mentioned this on a number of occasions. He's got somebody retiring, he's got three people that are gonna be off on,
He's also now going on back surgery and probably going to need neck surgery.
yeah, so, I mean, it's an issue. We've got to get this covered.
Anybody else from the council have any questions? Okay, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the $16,000 additional for employee replacement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thanks, Brian.
Sir, can I have one moment? I want to address something that was brought up at the commissioner meeting. Excessive overtime. Our department does not have excessive overtime. We are on trend of what we normally spend for our overtime. Our shift rotation does have built-in overtime, but we do not have excessive overtime. Like I said, we're on board with what we normally spend. Jody double-checked that at the commissioner meeting. But I just want everybody to be aware that we have built-in overtime in our rotation because we use the 2-2-3 12-hour schedule, which is the industry trend for us. And our people love that beyond belief. They love that 12-hour rotation. That we are not in excess on overtime.
And I want to reinforce that. That department has scheduled overtime because of the work shift and the need that it be covered 24/7. So we understood that to begin with when we set that up. The only way to avoid the overtime is to hire additional people. which would be more expensive than what we're doing now with the scheduled overtime. They are under the wage and hour laws. We have to either go with anything is overtime that's over 8 hours in a day or 40 hours in a week. We've chosen to do anything over 40 hours in a week. So that's why that overtime is there, but it's scheduled. It is not it's not extra.
And if we change
Now,
our
he's
rotations-
gonna have overtime now because of maternity leaves and retirements and everything else. That is unusual, but the fact of the matter is you can't stop those things. They happen. But the majority of that overtime is scheduled.
And
It was planned.
If we had to change our shift rotations, we would have a mass exodus of staff, which will cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, and we'd have to hire additional people. You can't do it with the number of people that you have.
Right, can you just clarify for people who are watching, how much overtime is built into each employee's?
Each employee
Schedule.
gets 8 hours of time and a half every 2 weeks.
Okay,
1 week they work 36 hours, the other week they work 48.
okay. Because I didn't want anybody out there thinking, oh, they're getting 20 hours of overtime or something like that. Like, just an explanation is helpful for the
And
public.
sometimes you guys may see somebody has 20 or 30 because they're, we ran into a stint where we had a couple people out, bereavement. So you're starting with a base of 8, and some of my people, they're team players, they want to jump right in and say, yeah, I'll take this shift and this shift.
Sure.
So that's when you see that bigger number, but the base number always starts at 8.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, the next additional comes from the Change Academy. We have several. And the department is JCC Change Academy, fiscal year 27. Fund name is Juvenile School Fund. Fund number is 4116. The location is 0913. Object number is 027. And there will be several here we'll go through. Juvenile is on a fiscal year, need to appropriate budgeted funds for fiscal year 27. Was this included in the annual budget? The answer is yes. How will this appropriation be used? It'll be used for wages, SS's, Social Security, supplies, liability insurance, equipment, and building base, or building lease, medical testing services, contractual services, training, computer equipment. And the total cost on that was $121,575. Is this a reoccurring expense? And the answer is yes. Will other expenditures be necessary? The answer is no. Was it discussed with the liaison? The answer is yes, and that was Amy Dembski. If you look in your packet on the next page, you'll see a breakdown. Do we need to read each one of these, Susan? On this page right here?
That's up to you.
Hearing no objections, we'll not read them. So, again, this is the breakdown of the services that are requested for the $121,575.
And this is coming in from a state grant?
No,
This is,
it's the school funding, so,
okay, so
but they still run it on a fiscal.
on a fiscal instead of calendar?
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the $121,575 for the Change Academy? Have a motion by Amy Dembski. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Bill Van Wy. Any further discussion from the council? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is granted. The next one comes to us from probation. It is a request for $12,000. The fund name is Probation ATC Donation Fund. Fund number is 4122. The account number is 33900. And this is the account title Medical Testing Services. The amount is $12,000. Was this included in the annual budget? And the answer is no. And the reason not included, notified of funding in May of 2026. How will this appropriation be used? It'll cover drug testing expenses for participants. Specific cost of the item is $11.77 through $13.39 for the test. How was this cost determined? The cost is set by Abbott/Redwood Toxicology. Is this a recurring expense? And the answer is yes. Will other expenditures be necessary? And the answer is yes. And the reason for the expenditures was drug testing invoices are received monthly. Was it discussed with the liaison? That was yes, and that was Dave Yard. I know that we've been aware of the drug testing, the increase in number of people that are being processed through the drug testing there. Do we have a motion to approve the $12,000 from probation?
Did we just do an additional for drug testing?
What about it, Amy?
Did we just do an additional for drug testing? I feel like we did one
We might have.
in May or.
No, there's been increases with this particular area.
In June, they were in, one was in the Family Recovery Court Fund, and the other was Problem-Solving Court.
But not specifically on the drug testing.
Yeah.
Medical testing, 2,500.
Same
Okay,
thing, 5,000. So we're,
This is probation. The other ones were the courts, from what you're,
It's probations. It's probation's solving court grants, ATC. I'm trying to remember, I believe. Yeah, but.
like it's 35 per test. So we approve, it looks like we approved June, 5,000. It would just be helpful to understand how much total is the drug testing costing the county? It's a little unclear for me at this point because of all the additional, so just, that would be helpful, clear. It doesn't have to be answered today, obviously. I mean, we're going through a lot, but it would be helpful for overall, what is the drug testing?
I'll be here this afternoon.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't even have to be this afternoon, but just long-term, what does that look like? So we can be prepared for that. As we discuss like community corrections and those types of things, it's good to have all of the costs that are affiliated with that.
any other discussion? Do we have a motion? Susan, did we get a motion on this? Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Bill Van Wyk to approve the $12,000 for the additional medical testing services for probation. Do we have a second? Second by Chris Kraft. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the $12,000 additional signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The last one comes to us. From the Change Academy. And this is from the JCC Change Academy, fiscal year 27. Fund name is Juvenile State Grant. Fund number is 9122. The amount requested is $88,686. And the juvenile is on a physical year. And that's physical, FISCAL, physical year, need to appropriate the budget funds for 27. Was this included in the annual budget request? And the answer was yes. How will this appropriation be used? It'll be used for wages, social security, testing supplies, and equipment rental. Is this a reoccurring expense? And the answer is yes. Will other expenditures be necessary? And the answer is no. Was it discussed with the liaison? Yes, and that's Amy Dembski. And if you look on the next page, there is a breakdown, the additional appropriation here for July 1/26 through 6/30/27. And if you would like, I can read those and go over them, or if not, we will proceed on. Does everybody want to look through this yourself, or you want me to read them? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the $88,686 from the Change Academy? Have a motion by Amy Dembski. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Rick Ring. Any further questions to come before the council? Okay, thank you, Amy. Any further discussion from the council? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the $88,686 additional for Change Academy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, that should take care of the additionals. Moving on, we have one transfer request from the recorder. And this is, the fund name is 1154 Enhanced Access. The amount is $4,964.50. It is from account number 44430, and the account title is Equipment, and it is going to account number 33710. Equipment title is Equipment Rental. The amount again is $4,964.50. Why is this transfer needed? The recorder acquired a new machine through lease not planned when the 2026 budget was prepared. Will additional appropriation be requested due to this transfer? And the answer is no. Was it discussed with the liaison? And that answer is yes. And the liaison is Chris Kraft. Do we have a motion to approve the $4,964.50 request from the recorder? We have a motion by Chris Kraft. Do we have a second? Second by Amy Prosser. Any further discussion from the council? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Transfer request for $4,964.50 has been approved. Okay. Next item of business is the 2026 salary and hourly wage ordinance amendment. And that is ordinance number 2026-OCC-8. And that is amending ordinance number 2025-OCC-12. And that is the Department Services account number 11520. That is a GIS Enterprise System Administrator. The WISC category is Pat C. Biweekly. Pay to max is $2,000. The pay up to max is $2,377.90. And Development Services number 11521 for the GIS Specialist. Pat A. Hourly, $28.62. Do we have a motion to approve this on reading of the title only?
So moved.
Have a motion by Rick Ring to approve on title only. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Bill Van Wy. All those in favor of approving on title only signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's been approved on title only. Next, we need a motion to suspend the rules so we can do a second and third reading. Do
I'll
we
make
have?
that motion.
Pardon?
I'll make
Okay,
that
motion by Rick Ring. Do we have a second to suspend the rules?
I'll second it.
Second by Bill Van Wy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. And now, do we have a motion to approve the salary ordinance amendment, ordinance number 2026-OCC-8 on second and third reading? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion by Rick Ring to approve on second and third reading. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Bill Van Wy. Any further discussion from the council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the ordinance number 2026-OCC-8 has been approved. The next one we have is 2026 salary and hourly wage ordinance amendment. It is ordinance number 2026-OCC-9, and it is amending ordinance number 2026-OCC-6. The department is Veteran Affairs. The account number is 11522. And it says the original ordinance had an incorrect account number listed of 11408. So we're amending that with account number 11522. The WIS category is COMAT 8, and the per hour is up to $24.08. Do we have a motion to approve this on reading only?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Amy Prosser. Do we have a second? Second by Chris Kraft. Okay, thank you. All those in favor of approving the amendment on first reading only signify by saying aye. Okay, opposed? Okay, motion is carried. Now, do we have a motion to suspend the rules so we can go to second and third reading for approval?
I'll make that motion to
We
suspend.
have a motion by Amy Prosser to suspend the rules. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Bill Van Wy. All those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved to suspend on second and third reading, or suspend the rules. Now, do we have a motion to approve on second and third reading ordinance number 2026-OCC-9?
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion by Amy Prosser. Do we have a second? Second by Chris Kraft. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving, again, ordinance number 2026-OCC-9 on second and third reading signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is approved. Moving on to the airport. I see Randy back there. Randy, would you like to come up, please?
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to try to be a bright spot in your day and not ask for any money.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yes, I'm
Speaking
not going
my
to ask
good
for any
ear.
money. In fact, for the upcoming year, we're not going to ask for any increase in our levy to the general fund or the cumulative building fund. So we seem to be in pretty good stead with things, and we're moving along briskly, I would say. The T-hanger project is underway. They're doing the foundation work. Where the church was outside the fence for a long time. That fence is being moved to enclose that space now, and that's where the new hangars are going to be. We kind of anticipated that as time went on, but once the church became available, it made it much more feasible to put those hangars in a reasonable proximity to the rest. We did sign an agreement with American Structure Point, and there are some other, they call them stakeholders, that are interested in a new exit off of I-69 in DeKalb County. And so the airport has joined in that group, and we did provide some funding for a feasibility study to see whether that is worth doing. The people on the south end apparently believe that better access into the county would be good for business, good for the county in general. And so we are participating in that study. I don't think there's any action that's going to happen anytime soon on that, other than whether the feasibility is. I know when I was still working for EMS, the long-term plan, and by now that would have been about, what, 2018? There was going to be a exit at Hirsch Road that was planned, and then when Parkview put in the Union Chapel Road exit, that plan went away. So now apparently there's some movement. I think a lot of it potentially is due to the property at the auction park being developed that would provide that. And then we've got nearly 70 acres of property at the airport south of the property. We've had 30 acres of it drilled to know that it could support construction, the buildings wouldn't sink away. We have that just geotech report on file now that we could have up to, at least at this point, 30 acres of light industrial businesses available. Again, the FAA has a series of requirements for that kind of a property to be utilized so that it's airport compatible. They don't want to, attract birds. We don't want to attract, coyotes and deer and stuff. We don't want tall structures that airplanes would hit. We want low impact. And so we have advertised that property as being available. We know that it is structurally sound, and so at some point in the future, we assume there's going to be some construction out there. We hope that's going to benefit the county and the airport at the same time.
If you look at something like what's around Fort Wayne International, it's a lot of warehouses and very low impact.
Cookies.
Type of things, yes, cookies.
I love the cookies.
I know that depending on where the state would choose to put this exchange, whether County Road 68 or County Road 60, could potentially save the county a large, very large amount of money. The one project that was when we discussed the wheel tax, the largest project we had out there because of upgrades that need to happen was to County Road 60. Mm-hmm. If the state would do something as far as an exchange, that would take us that expense out of us, away from the county. So I would, nobody knows at this point which one's going to be the chosen one or which one's the most appropriate. But if that one were chosen, it would save the county a lot of money.
And then in our old bit, that was part of the discussion we've had that prompted us to participate. Our old business, the taxiway, is complete. So we have 7,105 feet of usable runway. We now have 7,105 feet of taxiway. For the last couple of years after the runway was complete, we had 5,000 feet of taxiway. So an airplane would have to go out onto the runway. We call it back taxiing, where they would go to the opposite end, turn around, and then leave. And so 2,000 feet of runway was kind of a two-way street under normal circumstances. Now that's done. The taxiway is complete. For anybody who's ever flown in a light airplane, usually right before the pilot takes off, they set the brakes, they fire the engine up to test it and make sure it's not going to stall as they're leaving. And so there's a run-up pad along the taxiway that allows the pilots to get off the taxiway and other aircraft could go by while their run-up is being done. And it's ready to go. All the lighting's in, and we're very happy with that. And then again, the lunch on the fly, our meeting is this coming Friday. So lunch on the fly is from 11 to 1 at the airport. You're welcome to stop in. And if you'd like to stay for the board meeting afterwards, our board meeting's at 1 o'clock, and I'll take any questions.
Anybody else have any questions for Randy? Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, Randy.
I will tell you that I was on the committee that helped design the central communications, and the architect provided us a building that was 2.5 times the size, had windows you could almost drive a truck through, and as we started checking off the items that we didn't want, when we got done, you could almost see a tear in the guy's eye because he said, "You just want a bunker." And we said, yes, we want people inside there that nobody can get to, and it's a bunker. The limited access and the controlled environment is important to central communications. I'd just like to add that as a personal note.
Thanks,
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you.
Unless we have any objections, how about a 10-minute break? Okay, we stand in recess. Next order of business is ordinance number 2026-OCC-7, restating and amending ordinance number 99.4, which is the Uniform County Innkeeper's Tax. Do we need to read this, Susan? For the record, probably so.
That is up to you, because it was provided to you more than 48 hours ahead of the meeting, so that's up to you.
Okay, we'll do it by title only. And this is DeKalb County Ordinance Number 2026-OCC-7. It's restating and amending ordinance number 99.4, the Uniform County Innkeeper's Tax, as previously amended by ordinance DOC 2011-1 and 2014-R-11. It's an ordinance imposing the Uniform County Innkeeper's Tax equal to 8% of the gross retail income received from lodging in DeKalb County, Indiana. We've had this, as Susan mentioned, 48 hours in advance, so I'm not going to read the entire ordinance unless somebody on the council requests it. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a, look for a motion to approve it on first reading, title only. Do we have a motion to approve on title only?
So moved.
Have a motion by Rick Ring to approve on title only. Do we have a second? Second by, I'm sorry?
Chris?
Chris? Okay, thank you. All those in favor of approving the ordinance on first reading, title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion is carried 4-1. Okay, next would be to suspend the rules. Do we have a motion to suspend the rules to look at approving on second and third reading? Do we have such a motion? I have a motion by Rick Ring. Do we have a second to suspend the rules? Do we have a second? No. The chair cannot second that.
Chair cannot second, but you have another issue. You have a commissioner here but not voting, and you'd have to be unanimous of those present. And I believe he's present because he was here, Bill Van Wy.
But there's been an issue.
He's gone for the
He's
rest
gone.
of the day.
Yes,
His brother's getting ready
It's
for
a family emergency.
and you have to have 2/3 of the council, you have to have 5 people voting to suspend the rules.
There are 5 of us.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 voting to suspend the rules. So you'd have to have unanimous of the 5.
You have to be unanimous of the 5 to
Correct.
suspend.
It has to be, no matter how many of us there are, it has to be unanimous in
But,
order
you know,
to suspend the
You
rules.
can't have 4. You can't have 4 unanimous. If you only had 4 people present, you'd have a quorum, but you could not suspend the rules with 4. So it has to be 2/3, at least 2/3 of the elected membership.
Bottom line, it still has to be unanimous. There
Yes.
cannot be any
Do
opposed.
we need to do a roll call?
No, we don't have a second.
We don't have a second.
We don't have a second.
There wasn't a second made to
But-
suspend the rules.
That's what I was asking Don. Can I second it?
I don't believe so. I think the small meeting 7 is too much for the small meeting second. I thought it was okay to second at one time, but I've since did the research and found that inappropriate. So.
Okay, do we have a second? Hearing none, this will,
So that just means second and third reading goes to the next meeting.
yeah, this will move to the next meeting then. Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay.
The only thing I'd like to say about that is, and I understand that nobody likes to raise taxes on anybody, but this is the innkeeper's tax that is paid by those people that are visitors to our county that are at our local hotels and Airbnbs and whatnot. All of our surrounding counties have gone to the 8%. So, you know, when our residents go to other places, they are paying the 8%, so.
I'll just say I voted against it because I am opposed to raising taxes on our visitors especially, and just because other counties do it doesn't mean we need to do it. So, just my thoughts.
Well, this does fund a function of a county, and it is necessary, it is needed, so.
That's your opinion that it's necessary. It's other people's opinion.
This will come back to the next meeting, Ryan. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Ben Parker, are you ready? You're a little early, so that's a great thing.
Time then, huh?
Yeah,
How's everybody this morning?
good, thank you.
Well, I got a request this morning. Commissioners and I have worked on a lot of our ordinances now for our permits, for utility permits, right-of-way permits, driveway permits, to increase or put a fee on those, along with penalties and things that we should have done a long time ago for the time that we spend on these permits and investigating and following up and also get in with the 21st century of all the other communities around us. So them ordinances was passed this last meeting with the commissioners. We had the third reading, so we've got the advertisement, and I'm going to put them in effect August 1st. So with that, I'd like to get some way for a payment other than check and cash, because a lot of these are utility companies and they want to be able to pay through a service of some kind. So I did some checking with that, talked to Joni, and I talked to Chris Gallmer. And from my understanding is I need to come before the council and request approval to open up a bank account, a checking account in the highway, for the highway department. And then all that money will be transferred or put into there when they pay the credit card. And then once a month, I'll have to balance that and then write the treasurer a check to pay that fund back each month. So I need to come before the council and request permission for the bank account to be open for the highway, and then I got to go to the commissioners and get a contract signed for the credit card company. So I am here today before you guys to ask for approval on the bank account.
And that would go through, why is it set up through the highway department and not through the auditor's office?
Because I'm not accepting the credit cards. They are. Every single, surveyor just did this, Chris Gallmer, Community Corrections, anybody that accepts credit cards, it's
Has their own bank?
their own bank account.
Okay.
Recorder, any of them.
Yeah, it seemed kind of odd to me too, but I assumed that, I liked it to went through one, but that's not the way it works.
Okay. Just good to understand that. I didn't realize that. So.
I'm glad.
Do we have
Well, but it's still going to be subject to State Board of Accounts audit and
Correct.
everything else, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just adding more work to us is what it's doing, but it's making it easier for people to pay and,
Well, and you're right. This is something we should have done a long time ago.
right,
And I did notice all these ordinances were in the paper this morning.
they are, and they'll be in there next Wednesday too. So if you'd like to read them, they are in the paper today,
Yeah.
so.
Do we have a motion for the highway
I'll make a
department
motion.
to set up a checking account?
I'll make
We
that.
do by Rick Ring. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Amy Prosser. Any further discussion from the council? We'll call for the question. All those in favor of the highway department setting up a checking account as per Ben's instructions signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you guys.
Thanks, Ben.
Okay, moving on. We have nobody here from the commissioner.
And
Yeah.
Ben,
Do we have?
Kellen's right.
Kellen and I talked about it. He was going to be here.
He's right there.
Is he at the door? Okay.
Yeah, let him in.
Come on in.
We're ready for you. You're on.
We're ready.
You're on.
Do you have anything that you need to talk to the council concerning the commissioners. We're at the council commissioner discussion. If there is nothing, then we move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody for the commissioner this year? So, okay, we'll move on. To the council discussion. First is the acknowledgement of the receipt of the 2026 jail inspection, and everybody has a copy of this. And this needs council approval.
I'll make a motion that we acknowledge receipt of the jail inspection
And
report.
that's all we're doing is acknowledging the receipt of, not questioning its contents. Okay, we have a motion by Rick Ring to accept the acknowledgement of the receipt. Do we have a second? Second by Amy Dembski. Do we have any further discussion to come before the council? Hearing none, we'll vote on the receipt of the jail inspection of 2026. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The receipt has been acknowledged. Okay, now we also we need to just acknowledge the receipt of the pretrial evaluation, pretrial process evaluation here that you have a copy of. And again, this is just to acknowledge that we have received it, nothing regarding content. Do we have a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the pretrial process evaluation? Have a motion by Amy Dembski. Do we have a second? Second by Chris Kraft. Any further discussion to come before the council? We'll call for the question. All those in favor of acknowledging the receipt only of the pretrial process evaluation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The receipt has been acknowledged. Okay. Next, moving on, is further discussion regarding the wheel tax. We talked about at the last meeting that Garrett is implementing a wheel tax. That is money that will not be coming to the county. And Auburn is in the process of.
My understanding, their intention is to.
Their intention, but
create
they
their
haven't
own.
acted.
I haven't seen it yet.
Right.
I had a meeting with the mayor last week. Don't know if it's been, I'm sure it has to be on the agenda soon because it has to be done before the end of August.
And again, if they would adopt, that would be like Garrett, that money would not come to the
Not
county.
to us at all.
Correct. Okay, point is that possible loss of revenue for the county because of the municipalities putting on a local wheel tax. And that'll be a loss of revenue for us. So the question for discussion is, do we want to increase the county wheel tax? We passed it, when we passed it initially, it was at the lowest possible level. And open for discussion. I don't know what the rate is. I did not see a rate. Did you, Rick, what Garrett was going to charge?
It's more than, I can tell you it's more than ours. It was $25, I think. I don't know what the, I think the, well, I'm not going to say it because I don't remember. But again, I think I do know it was more than what we're charging, totally. And I think ours needs to be looked at anyway. As I told you before, I think it's rather strange and unusual that I've got an RV that's going to have a lower wheel tax on it than my car does. And it's kind of ridiculous, but the funding is going to have to, we're going to have funding for the roads. That's all there is to it. And we are going to get reimbursed by the state for what we've lost in the wheel tax up to this point. I don't know if anybody's got a total on that yet, but cost of maintaining our roads is not going to go down any.
Do we know how much that loss will be from Garrett and Auburn passing their own?
Don't know in August,
No.
still negotiate. They're still.
And I think they finally determined that the issue even before was just everything, all the records were kept with an Auburn address or Garrett address or Butler address, but that did not designate what was actually in the city limits. We have that issue with local option income taxes also. There was need to determine what's actually within the city limits. I believe that the BMV has that done now, but I don't have those numbers yet. Department of Revenue is still doing that for the local option income taxes.
And we don't know what the state will be reimbursing us as far
They
as.
say what everything that we've lost, but, you know, one of the
I understand that.
one of the better things about this is the original proposal was, yes, the state would reimburse us, but it would be determined by the legislature in January if and how much they would reimburse. So we would be at their mercy. What the governor has done is he is going through the budget process at the state. He's going to reimburse us through that process, and it's then up to the legislature to refill the pot that he's going to use for that. So the state's on the hook, not the counties. We'll get our money, whether the state reimburses themselves,
Gotcha.
that's their issue.
Okay.
So,
So we really don't know how much we've lost at this point. So it's hard to gauge how much do we, if we would decide to raise a tax, how much, because we just don't know what we don't have yet.
and I think we probably should wait until next month, but knowing that it's next month or
September is
nothing.
the deadline.
If we can't do it, if we don't do it in the August meeting, it's gonna have to wait a whole year again. So, but I would say that that's probably the wiser thing to do.
And that would be wise, because we'd have the full council here,
Yeah.
hear everybody's input.
Right.
So we'll bring this up again at the August meeting and have to go up or down, yes or no. And hopefully we'll have some more information. Okay,
And we should know then, by that time, we would know what Auburn does.
yeah, because again, they're held the same deadline as September as the council is for the county. Okay, last item is the MUST committee.
Both primarily Auburn, but Garrett's also asked, you know, would we have a MUST committee this year? And I think we probably should have. Not that, you know, the actual changes don't take effect until 28, 29. So next year is more important, but if we had the MUST committee this year, we could give the other municipalities an understanding of how the process will work. The portal is there showing them how the different income taxes can be adjusted to bring everybody else, hopefully, up to at least level. You know, I don't think anybody wants to do massive increases or decreases to any one of those units, but bringing everybody together so that everyone has an understanding of. So I think that we do need to schedule it, but County Council Associate, or the Association of Counties is saying not to do it until August or September. Now, the day mayors and commissioners are meeting, I believe in Bluffton or Decatur, that was going to be a discussion that they were going to have today. But hopefully we can bring that committee together. It does have to be a public meeting, so it will have to be live streamed. Everybody will see what that portal looks like. It is only to be the way the MUST committee is set up. There'll be one member of the council, which I think appropriately would be the council president, and the fiscal officers of the municipalities. Not the mayors, not a council member, but the fiscal officers. So it's going to be the clerk treasurers. Now, mayors and council and everybody else can be present, but they're not part of the committee. So get the appropriate people there and start walking through these different scenarios to give them some confidence as to how these things would be handled in the future.
Now, the MUS committee is not mandatory,
It is not. It is not.
because I think there are some counties that already have decided they're not gonna participate.
Again, I don't think it's it won't be required this year because none of these things will really take effect until the decisions that are made in '27. But in order to make it very transparent for everybody, you know, the municipalities are very nervous. The libraries are nervous. Solid waste is nervous because these decisions are gonna be made in the future, and they're worried that they're going to be left in the cold. And we need to be as open and as straightforward with them as we can possibly be.
Probably have a full into August, and we'll look at this in September.
This would have to be separate from the council meeting. It couldn't be
Discussion?
The MUS committee is a committee that'll be meeting separately. It won't be a council meeting. It would, so it could be, any time in August, latter part of August or early part of September. September might be kind of rough for us because we'll be doing the real budget discussions then, but might be able to do it at the end of August. I would suggest that we work with AIC as to what they think that the best timeline would be, because they're going to have the most up-to-date information from anybody.
Okay, but the requirements for who to be on it are pretty well.
That's set in the
Yeah.
state law.
That's pretty much non-negotiable.
Right.
So we just need to get the players together to start to see if that's the direction everybody wants to go.
Right.
Do we have anything else to come before the council?
Are the schools included on that must committee?
No.
Nothing about them.
Nope. That's the municipals. And the must will have maybe a little bit of leeway to do something for the schools, but for the most part, this is for municipals and county and the
Taxing units, so they're
taxing units, but not the schools.
And then,
And in DeKalb County, the schools are gonna lose some money up front, because right now they do get a distribution from the local income tax now, and that goes away in 28, 29, that goes away.
right,
'Cause of
assuming
the
that the
arcade.
legislature keeps everything the same, right? Assuming that.
That's it,
Yeah.
that's another very good point.
Yeah.
I mean, there are going to, the governor's got a group working right now to see if there are any unintended consequences from SB 1 and try to get those on the agenda for the legislature. But every time the state makes an adjustment to any of our taxes, there's always an unintended consequence that has to be fixed later. It's without fail. I'm just hopeful that because personally, I think property tax is a good thing. It's steady, it's paid by those people that can, whether you disagree with it or not, can most afford it. And it's spread out fairly evenly among everybody. This proposal of eliminating property tax and putting a sales tax on services is going to cause major issues for a lot of people, and it will push the primary payer over to being the young people that can't afford it. The older people are the ones that have the property, they have the riches, and I think that's fair. I think that's fair. And every time and with all that they're trying to do with property taxes, every time you take a payer out, whether it's over 65 exemption or a veterans exception, that's that many fewer payers And so everybody else's, fee goes up, basically, so. Anything more?
I couldn't have said it better.
Do we have anything else to come for the council, any further council discussion? Hearing none, the famous words, Chris Kraft. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning our regular council meeting, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Council meeting is adjourned. So, can we start early now? If we have people that want to come in early?
Depending if we can get people,
We can get quite a few done there.
it's not a public, it's not a public hearing.
You think I'm gonna collect it? Or the accountants, or anybody else, I mean, that's just.
Yep.
killer.
Let's take a little break so we can see if we can get a hold of people.
Okay. How long you need? 3, 4 minutes? 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break.
Right.
Okay, good. Try going with it.
Okay.
Or I
So
couldn't find it here.
the cum cap is where we had that money allocated to buy the new voting machines. So next year, we will fulfill that. It's our last payment, and then that is gonna go away. So that's the 117,600 to fulfill that. Other than that, there's nothing else that's in there. Our perpetuation fund, as you know, that is not money that is taxpayer money. We get that from our, like, the record keeping, what we open in court cases, we get a percentage and it goes into that. And then we are very limited on what we can even use that for. So I did not increase that at all, but I like to have money in there because you never know. I might need to get some books or something for record retention. Our incentive fund, again, it's not taxpayer funded. It is money we receive in my office from doing work with child support, so it is federal money that we receive. And again, very limited on what we can even use that for expenditure-wise. The clerk budget, I really did not change anything. I have the same amount of employees. So that has not changed.
And you actually went you lost a position last year at your request.
I cut quite a bit
That's what I
last
thought.
year, yeah. So this is the same, yeah, I think it was like 40-some or 80-some $1,000 if I remember correctly. Yeah, we cut a lot last year, so this is exactly the same from last year after we made those cuts. Nothing has changed. I'm still holding that part-time position at what it is because we're kind of still on the bubble with Butler City Court. If that ever goes away, we could be getting that traffic back. So I need to keep money there. I need to keep a position there if that ever comes our way. Election budget, as you know, our elections run on cycles, so they change every budget cycle. Next year, it's going to be a city and town election, so it's going to look like it's decreasing from this year, and that's just because it's a smaller type of election. We won't need as many employees to staff it.
You determined, I mean, during the city elections, I doubt if there's a reason to have 8 vote centers. Would you reduce the number of vote centers for that election?
We could. I mean, I still kept it at the exact same amount.
Okay.
Just because we don't know. I mean, you don't know how highly contested it's going to be, so to speak. So that's something we can always adjust for that. And yeah, we might not need to use all 8, which would be great, and that would save money there. But I would rather ask for the money and have it than have to come back.
I didn't know if it was required that
No.
you do 8,
No,
same number year after year after
Now,
year.
if we do it in the, I believe if we do however many in the primary, they change, I can't remember if they've changed it or not, but it used to be you had to do the same amount in the general. So we can look into that, but if that's the case, we might want to use all 8.
No, I know, it would help in Waterloo, but it would actually help everywhere if we could encourage the St. Joe, Ashley, all these people to get into the primary so that we don't have to do town conventions or anything like that, but make things more uniform.
Yeah.
But, and if you're doing that, then you're gonna have to have more vote centers than usual.
Yeah. So yeah, nothing, I mean, like I said, it's gonna look like it's less, which it is, but then next year it's gonna look totally different again, because then we're talking a presidential election. So just ebbs and flows from what election cycle we are on. And then the year after that, we'll have a break. So are there any questions on any of those budgets? The 144 forms, the election, I did not raise anything for our election workers. I strongly feel that sometime in the future, we are going to have to, because it is nearly impossible to get workers. And it is a long day for a very minimal amount of pay. So again, I think that's just down the line. We're gonna have to look at upping those a little bit, but for this coming year, I did not increase anything. For the clerk staff, I did figure in a 3% budget raise, and that is because cost of living increase alone is 2.8%. So if they don't at least get that, they are making less money than they currently are. I just think we still, we need to be competitive. Hopefully keep them from going to the private sector.
Say that again?
The cost of living increase is 2.8%.
No, I'm not, okay. Not, the one I'm concerned about is what the health insurance went up.
And I'm not sure what that does to their pay to offset it, but I budgeted for 3% just taking into effect the cost of living increase. Yeah, our health insurance I know has went up a little bit. So like I said, if they don't at least get that, they're making less, they're taking a pay cut essentially. So that's just where I stand.
You understand that the percentage of increase for any of these positions is a council decision.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's just what I put in there requesting. So if no one has any questions, that is really all I have.
We have to cut somewhere. Budget.
Gosh. I honestly, I don't think I sat down and thought about that. I mean, I could definitely look it over and get back to you on that, but off the top of my head.
Okay.
I
feel like everything is pretty essential at this point and not making any changes.
It is. So, but I'm willing to sit down and look at it and see if there's any room anywhere. So.
And what are you looking at accomplishing with your team for the coming year? That's any goals you've set for your own office?
I really am trying to cross-train as much as possible, which is very hard in our office just because we handle such a wide range of things. Not only are we doing all the court cases, we do elections, we do, you know, it's hard to completely cross-train that. It's just nearly impossible. But I try to do it as much as possible. We've had some positions move around. I had one of my staff members go up to Superior 1, and one of the girls that currently works in the office wanted to learn that criminal position, so we moved her from civil to criminal, which is great because now she knows both. We're looking at, you know, getting somebody cross-trained in the bookkeeping, which is huge. So just stuff like that. Help, you know, give us a good...
I just like to comment. I think most every department, I'm pretty sure all departments, have pretty much cut year after year after year, trying to get us down to where we need to be every year. So, you know, as thinking that there's a lot of fat there that can be immediately cut out is probably is definitely unrealistic. Although I will just throw out that what the state is pushing is that everybody needs to look at taking a 10% cut, period.
Okay.
And you don't want the council doing that cut for you. Only you know where that cut is sustainable. But, and I think everybody's cut. You actually cut employees, so you probably cut more than most.
And I think it was way more than 10%.
I don't think there's a whole lot to be cut out there, but the 10% number is what's been thrown out. So.
We just want you to be prepared. We do come back
Absolutely.
and
Oh, no, absolutely. Like I said, I didn't sit down and think
Yeah, I
about,
understand.
oh, I can cut more here, but
We've never asked
I can
that before,
reevaluate, so. All right, thank you. Oh. No, no, sorry, and Amy and I met about that not that long ago, and she asked me that. There is nothing I can foresee at all, just because the office went through the remodel the prior year. So there is nothing major that I could see needing done in there, even probably more than 5 years. I mean, I'm not going to say something can't happen, but that office sat for 20 or 30 years before anything major was redone to it. Let's hope that's the same case.
Just remember, the commissioners have changed that, so you have to go through Larry now.
True, yeah. But no, there's nothing that I foresee in the future, at least the immediate future.
Dana, I would like to thank you for your budget. I know that it's difficult. You have multiple budgets and you have, there's just difficulties with election, non-election years and going back and forth. And when I was running some reports, you've been very consistent and you did cut quite a bit last year. So it may not be as reflective right now, but maybe the council can look at that overall with what you cut. But
thank you.
kudos to you for that.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Dana.
Do we have anybody else? Is Sheila gonna go, or?
Sheila, you ready?
Sheila?
I got a 6 o'clock meeting in Fort Wayne.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sheila.
Hi. My numbers did not change from last year. Like on my assessor one, I just carried the same numbers over. Same thing with the reassessment fund. There was just no changes there per your request. And I don't foresee anything changing with that. A lot of the things that I have are contractual service kind of things, and so, you know, those are pretty much set as the contracts are. So I really don't foresee anything different than what it was anyways, as far as that. Kind of cut and dry, I guess. With no, technically, no. But we've been skating by. I have people that are really good at stepping up and making things get done. So ideally, it would be better if I had another couple positions that were filled. But that's not easy to accomplish either, so.
I'm going to ask you the same question. If we had to cut 5% somewhere, is there a place that you see in the assessor budget?
No.
Okay.
Like, you know, my office supplies are $2,700, postage is less than 15, legal notices is $210. There's nothing, there's no fat. That, kind of as Rick was saying, all that, any fluff was.
The only thing I happen to think about while up there, what did postage go to now? 81, 82, 83 $1? Is it $1 yet?
Yeah.
I mean, you send out a lot of mailings, don't you?
Yes, but since we have started to outsource the notice of assessments, I always get a hold of that company because they can get a lot better rate.
And they can do bulk mailing.
Yes. So I always get a hold of them prior to this and be like, what are we looking at? So that I know if what I am requesting is going to cover it or not. So, and it's just because they can't give you obviously an exact amount because the post office, they don't know exactly what it's going to change. And, you know, one year you could have, I'm just using a silly number, you could have 31,000 pieces of mail go out, and the next year you could have 30 because, you know, they group it, and we always did this too. We would rank it by taxpayer. So everybody that owned more than one parcel that on the deed, their name was the exact same way, that would go into an envelope rather than 3 or 4 or 5 envelopes. And that company does that as well. they group it by taxpayer, so, but even just a period after initial, an initial can change that, or a middle initial on some properties and that they own and not on other properties. So we get it squeezed as well as what we can.
And the only reason I brought it up is it's one of those areas where you just don't have a whole lot of choice.
No, you don't.
It's gonna get mailed.
It is.
It is what it is.
It's required to go out, and that's what we have to do, and it is what it is. All we can do is get as close as what we can on that. So, yeah, I've been doing this long enough that I feel as though it's very dialed in. Is there gonna be a few dollars left over in some of them? Yes, but it's not gonna be very many, because nobody can go, this year I'm gonna need X amount of money of worth of office supplies. You know, so there has to be a little bit there. So, but yeah.
I just feel you've done a very good job, all that you do, and
Thank you.
help that, you know, you did something in the public on Saturday, just appreciated that. And, you've been very transparent, and we just need to educate people. Property taxes seem to be the big topic of everybody, and
It is.
you are in the face of that, so.
Yeah, we're the something of it. I'm not sure it's the
I'm
face.
just glad to see that you know, all I have to do is call and sit down with you
Yeah,
and explain it.
yes,
So,
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. It's the ones that people ask questions or make statements to individuals that have no knowledge, no understanding, they've not educated themselves, and, you know, those are the ones that make things a little spicy once in a while, but we're willing to explain what we do, and it's all cut and dry, it really is. It's all data driven, and.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Sheila.
I did have another,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Will you explain, I think it's important for everyone to understand on the reassessment, your contractual services, because that stands out as a high-cost item, but will you explain what that is so that everybody here at the table can understand that?
Yes, within that contract, and of course, it's not in front of me, but it includes legal, if an appeal is going to state or anything, that includes all of my legal is included in that. It is all of the field work, 99.9% of the field work that is done through that contract. Any questions that the state has that gets quite deep, they will assist with that. Assist with the ratio study. It's so broad what they do, but just the legal backing of not having to have another attorney and that kind of thing. If you just took that dollar value out, there's very little, really, if you were to break it apart and have to pay an attorney separately from this contract. So, and that is a 4-year contract on that. So that's set, you know, it's not going to change for 4 years. But they do a lot. I would have to have probably 5 or 6 more people in my office. One would have to be an accountant. You'd have to have another one that was an attorney to cover all of that. So all of those things come within that contract.
Thank you, I think that's very helpful, all of us understand.
Thank
So
you.
that same company is used by quite a few of the counties, right?
Yes, a lot of counties in the state, yes. Yeah, all over it, spattered, but, yeah. Yeah, and they came in before I even started, so they probably know this, I shouldn't say probably, they know this county better than anybody, I would say, because they've been to every single property, and, yeah. They've been around a long time.
Great, thank you, Sheila.
Thanks, Sheila.
Thank you.
Okay, Mark, next.
If he's ready, he's there.
Mark's not here
Yeah,
yet.
he is.
Is he?
Oh, no, Neil is.
No.
Oh, Neil just came in.
Yeah, okay. Everybody needs a break. We could have to do it. 5.
Just got done with course, sorry. Okay. Good morning.
Morning, Mark.
So did you guys get my email I sent out on Monday? Other than that, the budget that I submitted was pretty simple. But this all came up recently, so. What do you guys want to know?
That's a good way.
I've been asking everybody, if you have to cut, where should we cut?
Yeah. Well, as you know, with my budget every year, when you look at I usually have money left over in accounts that we carry over, usually. Looking to, I don't know where we could cut. Need appeal money, gotta have that in there. Salary, other than this most recent thing. I don't think there's anything I could cut on my budget.
Mark, what's the volume of work that you're doing within the public defender's office? Up, down, same as previous years? Because really, it's the activity in court and in the prosecutor's office that drives your business.
Yeah, it does. Actually, well, back in, I don't know if you remember, a number of years ago, we were like really teetering on maxed out on all the attorneys. It's not that bad, but we are actually going over. So to explain, the two, remember we were getting reimbursement for just the felonies and not the, and we could basically, since we weren't getting reimbursement on the two misdemeanor lawyers, they could be paid less and get more cases. So it had been okay until about a year or so ago, and actually right now, Halen's numbers are over and Chandler's right there at the max. So, but now, because we have this pilot program, the felony people can pick up that slack without us getting violated. You remember, there was a time we had a case where all my attorneys were conflicted out, so if you handle a misdemeanor case, the state sanctions you. You know, you're not supposed to do that. So I had to handle this case, and then we got, you know, cut like $500 or something, you know. So basically right now, the numbers are up on the misdemeanor level.
But we're now getting reimbursed for that.
Yes.
At what, 2/3 or something like that?
Yes. No, it's up to 40%, just like the felonies. And actually, let's see here.
And that, was it in the state law as to how long that pilot program would go?
Yes, yeah, well, they have it for a few years, but they're supposed to be looking at it every year, and they're gonna look at it in September to make sure we're, you know, these pilot counties are in compliance. What this happened here on this, and I forwarded it to you guys, that contract. I think I have a really good relationship with the Public Defender Commission, or they changed the name to Commission on Court-Appointed Lawyers, as you know. But, so usually they know that whenever they contact me, I jump on it, and I don't think they look that close, but if you look at that contract, the reason why I didn't catch it is it talks about a pilot county not being in compliance, and there were 9 pilot counties. I was thinking, well, that couldn't be us, you know, because we were always in compliance. And usually they contact us if we're off on any reason, so we were supposed to have that salary increase at the beginning of 26, you know? But I told them, I said, hey, look, previous year you guys had approved benefits. And I said, we haven't gotten raises for a couple of years, but the misdemeanor attorneys are not in, or, you know, until this pilot program, we're not in the reimbursement, you know, conversation. So they then said, okay, that's true. So we'll, you know, like, we'll let you slide, but, you know, we need to know what's gonna happen.
So what you're saying is that the actual salary of the deputies is gonna have to be increased.
Yeah, the salaries of the two misdemeanor deputies, and I don't know how they find out this information, but I checked with Neil.
Everything's on Gateway.
Yeah, I know.
Everything's on Gateway.
Yeah, so they found out. So anyway, quite frankly, I didn't know. I didn't know that, that we were not keeping pace with the prosecutors as to the misdemeanor salary. So, but I think if, like I said, optimally, it would be best if we could do the adjustment now. I'm just asking at least get a confirmation for next year. I mean, if you look at the numbers, you know, their current salary, each one would be an increase of $17,946, which is a total of $35,892. But again, even that increase, we'll get 40% back of that. So it comes down to about $21,500 is what it's going to cost us. But we've been getting, like the last 4 quarters, we got $56,865 just with this pilot, you know, program. So even though we have to increase salary by, you know, and take a hit on 21,000, we're getting back, at least in the last year, it's showing we're getting back 56,865, so almost 57,000. So, you know, we're still ahead by $35,000. I mean, we could just say, screw it, we want out of the pilot program, but that doesn't seem to make sense to me. We're still ahead of the ball game there.
If we're out of the pilot program, we're out of the reimbursement.
Right, yeah,
So-
yeah.
How long does the pilot program last?
Well, it's supposed to last for a couple of years, and then they're gonna try to get all the counties in on it. But again, they're looking at it every year. And, you know, if for some reason I guess it's possible they could say, we want out of that, we want to stop this pilot program. I don't get that impression from the state guy that I talked to. He kind of even told me it's not likely to happen, but possible.
Are we guaranteed as a county to continue in the program? If they continue the program, is DeKalb?
Yeah, the only way we could be out is if we're not in compliance with their rules. And of course, they sent me an email on this. So this is a rule they want us to fix. So at least I'd like to know before their meeting so I can tell them, hey, the county has decided to fix this and here's how we're doing it, or not, you know, whatever.
If we increase the salaries of these, then they stop the program, then we no longer would get reimbursed on that percentage of their salary.
That is true. And then you could always.
We're gonna pay no matter what,
Yeah.
bottom line. We're required to provide a public defender.
I understand that.
So
No,
it's
I'm just
just,
talking about their
it's just,
salaries.
we're in a program now, and we fought to get in this program. To get the misdemeanors covered, because before, it was just out of our pocket straight out.
Sure.
So,
No, the
we
only-
need to do what we can do. Now, we're not, you know, and this is gonna happen with the judges and with the prosecutor and that. These guys didn't get a raise, and that's gonna roll downhill because based on the judges and sheriff's salary, prosecutor's salary is how we pay the sheriff. And so, there's a lot of people that aren't gonna get raises.
I'm only asking what the consequences are if the program would go away. Are we still going to pay the additional 17,000? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah,
I'm not-
and my answer to that is yes, because these are things that we're required to do.
We're required to pay them, yes. Are we required to pay them the additional if we want to stay in the program? Correct. I
Either
understand.
way, you gotta pay. Now, whether you have to pay the higher rate or the lower rate,
That's what I'm asking.
but at the lower rate, are you gonna get any, he had a trouble finding attorneys. The prosecutor's office had trouble finding attorneys that'll work, but
Understand.
we are paying, and that's going across the state. I mean, they're,
But we found them,
Yeah.
and they're here, and
To answer your
we have to look
question,
at that.
Amy, yes. If for some reason they stop the program or we get kicked out or something like that, the county is not obligated to pay that money. You could actually go back to the prior salary. I would recommend against that only because, like, you know, it's still going on. It's so hard to find lawyers. I know in LaGrange County, just a couple counties over, they're paying them $85,000. I'm competing with higher numbers. Anyway, I don't foresee them kicking us out of the program,
That's what I'm asking.
you know.
That's all.
Yeah, I think, you know, like I said, we're still on great terms with them. And I actually talked to Derek Mason. He was the one that came down and talked to us in 2016 on the commission. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know if that explains it, that situation. That's really the only snafu I have with my budget this year. But, you know, any other questions we have?
how many total attorneys do you have, both felony and misdemeanor?
There's a total of 8, 9, including myself.
But not all full-time?
No, I'm the only full-time, the rest are all part-time. We have 2 misdemeanor attorneys, and like I said, now, because we're in the program, we don't have to worry about, you know, felonies or misdemeanors. If the misdemeanor attorneys are qualified to do felonies, they can actually do a felony. And the felony attorneys clearly can do misdemeanors. And what we were doing, and this, because our numbers were so high on the misdemeanors I was telling you about, typically if a client has a felony case and then there's a misdemeanor also, even though prior to us being in the pilot, there had to be a certain public defender assigned to the felony and a different public defender assigned to the misdemeanor. Because of that situation, if you remember, I just told you Kalen's numbers were higher and so was Chandler. So they're on those cases, but technically the felony attorney is really handling that misdemeanor, which is okay under the rules, you know, because usually the prosecutor's going to offer a plea offer on the felony and it might get rid of the misdemeanor. You know, they try to package things up. Now that we have this situation where we're going over the numbers, where we've decided, I've told the state that we're going to start assigning those misdemeanors to the felony attorneys because we do have a little bit of room left on for their weight. So we're going to be fine. Just balancing the caseloads.
Anything else from Mark? Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep. Well, I didn't sign it.
Neil? Excuse me. Yes.
All right. One new face. I'm Neil Blythe, Mr. Kraft. Nice to meet you. So I'm going to work through some other numbers that I think are relevant. It ties into some of what Mr. Olivero was saying. And I don't have anything in terms of request for an additional attorney this year, but I think we're heading that direction. Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy, I think is how we say it, does a prosecutor analysis report basically for the Association of Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys and the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council, 2 different bodies. And statewide, prosecutors are short by significant numbers across the state, and that holds true for our office as well. And the way they look at the analysis is they take those numbers that the public defenders have to comply with and transpose that onto what our numbers would be if we held to the same standards. And those numbers do not include administrative time, which the judges count in their weighted caseload. They get a 20% administrative increase because of the administrative duties. We also have those duties in terms of the cases they're counting are only filed cases and casework on those particular cases. And so what we're dealing with is screening cases. We have state mandated bodies that we have to participate in, sexual assault response team, child protective team, child fatality review team, certain teams that we're involved with outside of all the other case-related duties we have. And so the numbers that they are providing to us are based upon our caseload, basically a 3-year rolling average. And right now, my office has 7 attorneys, 3 are full-time. That'd be myself, Chief Deputy Skylar Casto, and the newest hire in our office, Micah Betley. The rest are part-time. They weight the part-time attorneys at 0.6. And so right now, for our caseload allocation, we have 5.4 attorneys. We are currently 2.7 attorneys short without the administrative numbers. If we go with 20% added, we're about almost 5 attorneys short in our office. So just so you know where that's going. The other trend that we're seeing is that those numbers include 2 of our lower numbered case filing years. Last year, our case filings in terms of criminal cases were up roughly 30%, and our infraction numbers are holding steady around 4,000 per year. So that number is going to keep increasing in terms of how much we're short in terms of attorney staffing. We're thin right now, but we're holding our own. But if the trend continues and the numbers keep increasing, once that rolling average increases, we're going to fall farther behind. So looking for next year potentially, and maybe moving forward, I may be up here asking for the authority to hire another deputy prosecutor. My budget in general is largely the same. Since I've taken office in 2023, we've done as much as we can to leverage technology. We had an old paperless system that former prosecutor Claire Mary implemented. We transitioned almost completely to what we call the prosecutor case management system. And then last year, with your approval, you approved the Axon system for us. That's helped tremendously. It was a huge help for us when the cyber attack happened because most of our data is cloud-based at this point. We have unlimited storage in Axon, which is extremely helpful because of that situation where if we're tied to a server located in our building, that's subject to obviously more problems and cyber attack issues. But the bigger issue is the unlimited storage was extremely helpful. We came with a quote that was roughly $70,000 to $80,000 for a new server, which was essentially equivalent to a 5-year contract. We're putting in roughly 6.5 terabytes of data in evidence, and that's going to increase as body cams are more common. So the amount of data that we're storing for evidence is massive. It's going to keep increasing. We would have run out of room in that new server probably halfway through that 5-year contract, and we'd be back asking for more hardware. So I think we're on the right direction there. It seems to be a trend that is picking up statewide. I'm hoping at some point IPAC will convince our legislature to provide some money for state funding for all the prosecutors' offices to go there. That was, I know I talked about that last year. We're hopeful that will make some headway. But getting back to the attorney salaries, right now our one full-time county paid deputy is at $83,000 per year. I asked for an increase last year, which was denied. She is currently paid basically in the bottom 10% of the state for full-time deputies. I'd like to increase that. I put that request in the budget. The median salary for full-time deputies in the state is $99,500. The average is $99,750. So it's still well below that number. There is some proposed legislation that IPAC has worked on, they worked on last year, that would mandate, or I guess the state would agree to pay 50% of county-paid deputy salaries, but you have to meet a minimum threshold. Their proposed threshold last year was 100,000. I don't know if that's going to get any more traction this year. Obviously, be a huge benefit for everyone. We're not competing then necessarily with counties like we are now surrounding us in terms of wages for our attorneys. So I have basically the only changes in my budget from last year. Like I said, we really can't cut much in terms of what the budget is in terms of non-salary type expenses. We're pretty lean. There are certainly times when we run over in a certain category, but we have a little extra over here and we can manage. I think we can continue to do that. But in terms of salaries for the attorneys and especially the administrative staff in both offices, not only the criminal division, but the 4D child support enforcement division, I'd like to get those closer to kind of the mean of what this analysis report indicated. So I've asked for those salary increases as well. But other than the salary increases and salary issues and potentially the need for a new attorney at some point here in the next year or two, if the trends and cases keep increasing, most of the other numbers are largely the same.
I do know that someone will carry a bill this year that tries to set up a reimbursement system like we have with the Public Defender's Office for the prosecutors, because I think across the state they realize that it's been very difficult to get attorneys, especially in rural counties, and so they are going to try to address that again. Will it succeed? I don't know, but I know that they will at least try it again.
Yes, statewide, just sort of for reference, statewide, this report indicates that we're 390 prosecutors short statewide. That's without the 20% administrative duties. If you add that into it, we're over 500 prosecutors short across the state. Most of that is chalked up to the larger counties. Allen County is working at about half of their recommended. Marion County is very low as well, but most counties, if you look in here, are short. There's a handful that are a little bit above. I would say that we're about average in terms of how short we are in terms of a percentage of our staffing. But hopefully there's a way to fix that.
Neil, on your 4 part-time staff, when you say part-time, is that 20 hours a week? Is that 30 hours a week?
So
how does that look?
It largely depends. So they're not all assigned to the same division. So again, we're talking about cases, but we're also talking about different things like attending treatment court, which you could have. So if a misdemeanor case, on average, say they should take an hour for the case life, you may have 30 hours tied up in a treatment court on one case. So it's hard to put an analysis on that. Our breakdown basically is we have one prosecutor who's assigned to all juvenile cases and one of the treatment courts. We have another part-time person who, 2 of them actually are assigned to the misdemeanors, so they handle all the misdemeanors jointly. Micah handles all the traffic, which again, that's 4,000 cases. We don't have to deal with that many, but the contested cases, the other prosecutor deals with another treatment court. We're adding on that responsibility to the misdemeanor caseload. And then our 4th prosecutor, who's part-time, is in the 4D office. And so her job is far different. She's not necessarily prosecuting cases. She has a handful of felonies for those. But her court time would be a little different. Plus, she's preparing proposed orders for judges and doing all kinds of things on the backside. So the other thing that we don't know is if any of those cases go to trial, that could be 2, 3 full days that week. So it kind of averages out to, I would say, anywhere between 20 hours to 30 hours, I would imagine. It's hard to put a number on that, but in any given week, it could be 60 to 70 hours, depending upon what's going on with their job duties at that point. Meeting with victims and those type of things.
None of them want to
None of them probably do. I mean, I've contemplated in the past potentially combining two roles into one full-time, but if you do that, we're even more short, because then you're taking a 1.2 status between two and putting it at one, and it feasibly doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do that. Right.
Neil, I had a quick question for you. Last year, I had in the notes that you would like in 2027 to do a space study or something to look at your offices with the Title 4D office. Have you looked into that at all?
Yes, in fact. So right now, we have actually two things going on. Sheriff Thomas wants to rework the security entrance. I think that's going kind of in the process. I think the commissioners will be addressing that sometime here in the next little while. That's also going to potentially require a move of the entrance door to the 4D office from the current position down to basically the south wall, which is also going to include then a reconfiguration of the 4D office the way it's currently set up. Commissioners are all handling that. My understanding is they have money in their capital improvement budget to handle some of that, so that's not really an issue that we're too concerned about this body addressing at this point. The other issue is that we do need more office space in the office. We're in the process, actually, of handling that. Larry is helping us with that. We're taking one of the hallways, moving all the office equipment, and then moving that to a different hallway, putting a wall in the middle and creating two offices out of that hallway right now. Again, that's not something that this body is actually paying for. That's coming out of basically the maintenance budget at this point.
Are those Title 4D people or are those prosecutors? Like, is that some people that would typically be in the Title 4D office, or is that just?
Two separate things. So the 4D office is its own thing. They're working on that. The other two offices we're creating out of the hallway would be in the criminal office, but again, we're not asking for money for doing that right now. It was relatively low cost, and we're able to do that.
Perfect.
Well, this would have all been addressed in the space study.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
was
yeah.
just done.
Yeah.
So
The only other thing I will
those
say,
needs and requirements are within that
Yeah,
study.
I
he
did
had
put in
just-
there
you put that in there.
roughly $100,000 to redo the office. I still think that's needed. What we're trying to do is build up our, as you're aware, we have a pretrial diversion fund. We have been able to accumulate, roll over, not spend that money as every year we take in more than we spend on different things. And so we're trying to build that up to be able to pay for any remodel to that criminal part of the office out of that pretrial diversion money. The walls, as if you visited the office, are crumbling in some of the offices because of water damage. The flooring is getting a little rough in spots where it's bunching up, becoming a little bit of a safety issue. Just the allocation of the space probably could be used better, but I don't think that's anything that would be something outside of the capital improvement money or potentially pretrial diversion funds. So the county is aware too. We are moving to, we actually had a meeting right before this to go to a more automated system for offering deferrals for infractions, hoping that increases the participation. It also has a better education portion that will help people who have offended, a list of several classes they can take online. There'll be a better education component to the deferral process. We're hoping that also increases the number of people who participate, which would obviously increase the revenue that the pretrial diversions can produce for the county to use for those type of things. So we're always looking for ways to save money and generate extra revenue from cases that are already pending.
Anything else you'd like to add, Neil?
Well, I just thank you guys for considering it. I mean, I think the raises are very important for the staff, especially administrative staff. You know, they're not, that's their whole income. They're not part-time attorneys who go out and have a different source of income. So obviously with inflation and cost of goods going up, I think that'd be very helpful for them. And quite frankly, we want to stay competitive with the private market and other municipalities, so we're not losing good people for higher paying jobs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Carol?
Good morning.
Morning.
Hey. Can you hear me okay? All right. I had a question. I have a change on my capital gains sheet. Do you guys see that right now?
Whatever
The
you, whatever you provided, Jody has uploaded on their SharePoint.
Okay, I just want to add, well, actually, I can go over it. We have 2 generators that are listed on there that were purchased in 2008 and 2010. And I started thinking about it. I don't know anything about generators. So I got a hold of Larry and asked him to reach out to the generator people that maintain our equipment to try to get an idea of pricing if they had to be replaced and what the life of them would be. And in speaking with them, the 2 generators actually would not even be ready to, or should not need to be replaced before 2038 and 2040. He said that they could easily make it 30 years and probably 40, right around there. So I had one of them to be in year 2030. I had just been sticking them in there all along and then starting them over. So I just wanted you to know that. And then the other thing would be, with these items, I marked in a couple of the columns that they could be replaced with grant money. The issue is I'm using old grant money that is not being replaced, so the money is going to dwindle. And depending on which things go bad first, I'll use that money and then it's going to be depleted. So I'm asking that you guys prepare to pay these items just in case my money runs out in my grants. That way we're covered either way. The other issue is I would like to mention that to be able to make a purchase with that grant money that I'm using, we would need to apply, or we would need to ask the state, we would need their approval, and there's also grant rules that apply to each of the grants, and they're different. So we're always limited on what we can do, but I just kind of wanted to fill you in on that because those were changes since I did my paperwork. So. There is a sheet that I gave you. It's called Key Issues for the 2027 budget. It's a type sheet. I'm going to kind of go back and forth as I hit the budgets that this addresses. So the first budget, do you have a budget up there or can I pick?
I've got your budget up.
Oh, yeah.
And she wants.
I can
Go
pick.
for it and she'll make it work.
Okay, I'm
Whatever your
sorry.
fund is.
I would like the health fund, and I'm sorry, the Indiana HFI account, the 1161, if we could do that one first. And while she's pulling that up, I want to mention that when we started getting this funding a couple years ago, I purposely moved expenses out of our health fund, the 1159, because they fit nicely into this grant. Since then, in June of last year, they made a sudden change to the funding rules, And now that money can only be used for legal Indiana residents. So we had to stop in midstream and figure out a way to fund people that were not legal Indiana residents. Reason being, if there's a communicable disease, they're a danger to all of us. So we have to take care of everybody in that regard. So that requires me to have money in both the HFI, which can cover everybody that's a legal Indiana resident, and then people that are not would get paid out of the 1159.
Cheryl, how were you determining whether or not they were legal or illegal? That's got to have put an administrative burden on you.
It does. Alyssa is a beautiful person. Oh, gosh. We discussed this. We knew we had to do this, and we had to do it very quickly. We have a pre-screening form that she made. It has all the information. The person has to select the box that applies, whether or not they are a legal resident, or if they are illegal, or if they choose not to give us that information, it could affect their treatment through us. They also are required to provide a birth certificate or driver's license, depending on if it's a child or an adult. So we're having to keep track of the things that we provide. It is very cumbersome.
Because that could take some time.
It does.
Some treatment on some infectious disease probably needs to start sooner than later.
Right, right.
Can you start their treatment and move the expense to one place or the other?
What I'm
so that
doing,
you can get the treatment going?
What I'm doing is we are going to have pots of money in both. So we're going to take, after we do, we're going to have money in one to pay for the legal residents and one for the not in the other, the 1159. So as we use up the 1159, that is for people, it's less money. I'm thinking it's going to be less money. I've been guessing what I need because we weren't tracking this stuff before. So if we start running out, I'm just going to have to start transferring money around to make sure that we're doing it correctly. We don't want to.
But you can move, if you pay for it out of one pot and you find out it should have been the other, you can actually move that, right?
Well, no, I could not because they're two different funding sources. So what I would have to do is transfer within the
Okay, so again,
fund.
another administrative headache.
Yes.
Trying to get it taken care of because the infectious disease could endanger a lot more people than just those that are initially affected.
That's right. But we are, and talking about being funded, the first paragraph of this document, I put down that I moved our operating and medical supplies. I actually moved the operating last year and forgot to move some expenses into the medical supplies in the 1159. So I'm down farther on the sheet, I'm mentioning that I need to fund that account. It was an oversight on my part. So basically, that has to do with all of the issues with which fund to use to pay for services. The incentives account, the 22255, we use that for, we support it with the schools, county projects. We've done things for the county itself. We cut it way back last year to $5,000, whereas the year before we had like, I think it was $50,000, or no, $100,000. Yes. Yep. So we cut it way back to $5,000 because they stripped down the money. Well, I'm finding that with that operating supplies that I moved over to the 1159, I started, I guessed at $7,500 last year, that is what we would need we're already down to 1,769. So for this year's budget, I'm doubling. I think I asked for $14,000 so that I won't have to worry about this again, because I'm gonna be transferring all over in that fund. And then the medical supplies, as I mentioned, I've got to fund that account in this budget. So we're gonna put it back into the 1159. So as far as the budget, I'll do this budget, and then we'll move on to the other part of that in issues page. So the 1161, which is our local public health services account, the one we've been talking about, this grant, I've already submitted the paperwork for before we did budgets. In regards to the school liaison, that's a required position for the funding. I had to guess. I padded that account a little bit because I had no idea what kind of raises there would be. But of course, that would be changed according to what is approved. The 22255, the incentives account, I already talked about that. I'm doubling the amount. There are a couple accounts that show a 100% increase. Those are, no, that's not in this account. So that's really the only things that I needed to say to you about that. I don't know if you have any questions. As you scroll through, I tried to write good notes.
This department's got so many different funds. And I know Kellen's back there, so, there are equipment issues that are specifically should be dealt with by you.
Oh, yes.
And Alicia, but things like that, those generators, that should really fall under Larry. That should be, we've dealt with this with community corrections and with central communications. We want to hire good administrators for those functions, not necessarily building, HVAC technicians and things like that. That's beyond yours. That should be all under Larry. And now you need to make sure you're working with him and talk with him and make sure that it's on the list, but those are things that you shouldn't have to deal with.
Okay.
When the freezers and refrigerators for your vaccines and that is totally on you. But the physical building and the HVAC and the generators and all that other stuff should go over to Larry. He's gotten a new job description and pay. That's part of his responsibility.
And he does take care of us.
And we'd like to track all of that, so.
Okay. So is it okay to move on to the next one?
Whatever you want.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought everybody was still checking. The next one I would like to do is the 1159, the health fund. And in that, there's some key issues on this type sheet again. The operating, I think I already told you that I'm gonna have to add to that account or double it for next year. We talked about the one account that I forgot to put in, and I'm putting that in the paperwork. The other thing is there were some accounts that you'll see when we go through. They mention 100% increase, and those are just accounts that I had to move money into, that Leanne wanted us to put money or take money from a different account. So they were just transfers. They were already things we were including in our budget. So for the salaries that I listed are all their current salaries everybody has right now. In the last couple years, we've got a couple new employees that I've been trying to increase just a little bit more. One is the school liaison in the Health First Indiana, which we already did. The other is Alyssa, my first deputy, and then the third one is Veronica, a more recent environmentalist. So I've been trying to inch them up just a touch more each time.
Some departments, have been to us today already for people that are planning on retiring. Do you have anybody in that
Category?
category? I know that a year or two ago you lost somebody that's been with you for quite a while. Do we have anybody else, or do we all just have young ones like Alyssa?
They have not. Nobody has given me any dates.
Okay.
We have quite a few people in the office that are getting near there without mentioning any names. But nobody is at this point giving dates that I could give an answer to that. Yep. So we went over the salaries. The insurance and the PERF and Social Security, I used figures that Susan gave me. So let's see, we've already talked about those. I think I've already discussed everything that would be in here.
Carol, did you already talk about the operating supplies?
The operating supplies was the one that had just the 1,700 balance, and that's the one I'm doubling to help us not be transferring money all over next year.
Funding source for the health department comes from how many different places? We're not talking general fund, we're talking the health fund and
So the medical supplies, the 22260, that is one of them that was, I didn't fund before. I should have. And I put it in this here, this budget for next year. Our postage, we're running short. Cell phones were short. I've added gas money in here for the increase that we've been seeing. Let's see. The equipment, a lot of that equipment that's listed is for our vaccine units. Those are expensive to maintain. The medical testing services was a new account for us. And the membership dues, that too is a new account for us. That's why they show increases.
Carol, one of the purposes behind the additional health funding that the state gave us and then took away part of it before was based on a number of matrix that we needed to see improved county by county. Has any update to any of those numbers been published? Things like infant mortality and things like that. Have any of that been updated so we know where we're at with any of this?
I'm going to refer you to Alyssa. I actually forgot to have her talk about the
Poor girl's been standing
HFI.
back behind you there for less
I'm
than
sorry,
15 minutes.
but she can help you with that. She would be good. I feel bad. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, don't. Do not feel bad. Okay, so with all of the data, as you probably know, healthcare data takes a long time to update any new numbers. So really what we're seeing right now is a lot of preliminary data come out, but nothing has been finalized. Also, the couple of times that I've gone online to check our Health First statistics related to our core services, the algorithm for that was down. So I haven't been able to check anything. So if I go back to the office, I will do another check to see if things are up and running again and send you any statistics that I have that have been updated.
I've looked too, and I can't find
Yes,
anything.
I know.
It's all the old data.
And I know that the state is currently making a lot of changes to their website to make it better, a little bit more user-friendly. So I don't know if all of that is part of that update. So I just keep waiting and hoping that we see something soon. I know that in some preliminary data, and I don't know if it was officially out yet, but the state of Indiana, I think, has hit an all-time low so far with our infant mortality, I believe with our deaths. We have seen quite a decrease in that, but I can get you actual numbers.
Well, and that's one that's very, very important.
It is super important. So when I get back to the office, I will find the numbers for that and I can send it to everyone here so you guys can see that. But really, again, we're just kind of waiting.
There were some more general ones like the percentage of smokers and obesity and all those things. And,
yeah.
You know, that not only affects our whole county, but it also affects what we pay for as far as health insurance for our own employees.
Yes, correct.
So the better we get those statistics, the better.
Yes, exactly. So as soon as I start seeing anything, I can make sure I am pushing that information out to you. But just know that our partners are doing phenomenal work, and I am seeing all of the services that they're providing to people in DeKalb County, and they're doing a lot of awesome things. So we've been very lucky. And that's kind of why I'm even up here talking today, is to talk about our partners and what we're planning on doing moving forward for next year. So obviously, as all of you know, I was here talking to you last year because we lost about 78% of our funding for Health First Indiana. And because of quite a few funds we moved into Health First from our general health fund, we ended up, because we had to self-sustain, we ended up losing all of our partnership funding through that grant. So we, over the last couple of years, have kind of saved a little bit of a carryover through the last 2 years of that grant. And we recently met with the state, or at least our regional directors for Health First funding, and they highly suggested that we start using all of our carryover funds to just either put it towards partners or operations or anything like that, that we thought was important. So Cheryl and I crunched some numbers and we looked at what we had in carryover currently for the last 2 years, so 24 and 25. And we have close to 200,000 that we would be able to hopefully support our partners who are going to apply for us next year. So our plan is to hopefully sustain them ourselves for at least 1 year and see what happens in 2028. Because currently we're receiving funding from the county to sustain our partners, but we want to try to be good stewards of that money moving forward, and we know it might not always be there. So we want to try to see what we can do with the funds we have left over from the last 2 years and potentially this year as well, and move that into all of our partner funding, at least till we hear something for 2028, because I know we won't start learning about that until next year. So, yeah.
How would you have leftover funding?
So with the grant, they give us an amount of money. So once we have worked through the year, it's not that we don't lose it. It rolls back into a fund for us. So, but each year, instead of it just going into our fund for the next year, it's just in a carryover. So if we needed additional funding, we would have to request that from the state.
So all of the dollars were not initially allocated?
Correct. No, so we had everything budgeted out. Everything was set to go. But if we did end up spending, so like some of the areas that we didn't spend all of our funding were things like potentially operations or equipment, things like that. Some of those bigger ticket items that we're not necessarily using all of the time, but we have to prepare for it. So some of those accounts are the ones that we were getting carryover from. So all of our partners, we have always used all of our funding for our partners unless there was some change with grant requirements or we had partners who backed out early from their MOU contract. So that's really where we get the carryover from, but hopefully we can use it for this coming year and yeah, continue to work with our awesome partners. They're phenomenal. Yeah. And I'm happy to answer any more questions on partners or Health First or whatever you guys have. Perfect.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, thanks.
So the last paragraph on the sheet that's typed, we have two grants. One is the local health maintenance and the other is the Indiana Local Health Department trust account. These are the ones that have the old funding. And I referred to them in the capital gains sheet. These are the ones that we will be using to pay for equipment until it runs out. So we've already gone through all that. So the budgets themselves, I put money in accounts, just guessing what it would be for. I put it in equipment and vehicle purchases for both of those grants. And like I said, we've only been using them for the larger purchases for quite a few years now. Any questions on that? Okay. The next one is our Public Health Bioterror. This is our preparedness grant. It is used for paying a contractor to do the deliverables for the money, which keeps all of our plans up to date, someone that attends the meetings and things of that sort. Our contractor resigned effective June 30th. So we're looking for another person to contract with. We've actually reached out to Jason in Homeland Security and Mike. We're meeting with them. We're asking them if they would be interested in contracting with us this year to do the deliverables. So we'll know more about whether they can do that.
How would that work if they're already county employees?
Well, and I'm in touch with Andrew about this. He said he thought it could work out. So I told him I would reach out to Mike.
It wouldn't be through a contract between the two. Homeland Security would be taking over the grant. So it's not a contract between the departments.
Which actually Homeland Security has a line item that comes from the same source as the money we're talking about right here that they haven't spent yet and didn't want to spend it because it's something they could hold on to for quite a while, so.
And I should say, it's in the process of being approved for us to take the grant and then pay a contractor. I mentioned to them that possibly next year they would be able to take it on, just do the grant so there's no transfer of money between the departments. But in talking with or emailing Andrew, he seemed to think that it could work out for them to be a contractor for us. So we'll find out within the next probably 3 weeks or so whether that's going to work out.
Right here, but I'm not finding it.
Any questions on that?
No, I've got health. I'm looking for that particular format that you got up there. I've got,
It's
here.
because Susan has this in his presentation. It's like,
See, because this is all the health department ones here. And I was looking for that format that's up there.
it's because it's
Carol, you can keep going.
Can I? Okay.
You're looking at something else.
Okay. The last grant is the lead level grant. This one will actually be zeroed out before the end of the year. We're no longer getting those funds and we're spending them. So that will actually be gone. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Anybody else have anything for Cheryl? Thank you, we appreciate all the updates.
Sure.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Jenny, are you ready?
I am ready. Should have worn heels, should have known. Hey, first of all, I want to thank you all for your support and trust over the last 3.5 years. Together, we have made a lot of positive changes. I've not asked for any increase in my budget this year because you told us not to, but I do want to ask for a few minutes of your time so I can tell you what we've done with the resources that we've been provided thus far. Thus far this year, we are up to 80 cases that we are 4 cases ahead of where we were last year. That includes 10 accidental deaths, excuse me, 1 homicide, 1 undetermined death, 2 suicides. We have sent 20 people for autopsy with according toxicology reports. Autopsy fees are $1,275 a piece, with an additional $100 histology fee for each decedent, and toxicology for a standard autopsy panel is $248. Unfortunately, we've had to have a lot of add-on toxicology, including freon, carbon monoxide, designer drugs, and ethylene antifreeze, commonly known, because people do huff freon and they drink antifreeze, unfortunately. I was just notified a couple of weeks ago by our forensic pathologist that our autopsy fees would be increasing by $200 to $250 a piece. I was notified of this after our budgets were done. That said, I planned well last year. I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be able to shoulder the cost of that increase, and I'm not aware of any toxicology fee increases this upcoming year. Our body bags, this is the very first body pouches, which is the politically correct term on my budget, but body bags, this is the very first year that I've had to dip into that $3,000 budget. I came with a good supply from Mike, and then I've had additional bags obtained through our grant with the Indiana Violent Death Registry. However, we are seeing larger and larger decedents, super morbidly obese people. I'm talking 500 to 600 pounds, which standard body bags will not accommodate. I had to make my first body bag order for 11 body bags, was over $1,100. Those body bags are $90 a piece. And knowing how costly they are, I'm keeping very close track of that, who we're using those for, and I'm keeping a very close inventory of that stock. When I first came into office, one of the big things I asked for was an increase in our training budget, because we were sending people, including myself 14 years ago, to 40-hour medical legal death investigation training, classroom work, with no reimbursement whatsoever for that 40 hours. These people were working full-time jobs, having to take off to go to this training. We weren't being reimbursed for meals. We weren't being reimbursed for mileage. You amped up my training budget, and I thank you so much. When I first started in office, I happily said farewell to 2 deputy coroners. I sent a new deputy through training. He's been fantastic. Since that first year, I've had a very stable staff, thankfully, wonderful people on my team. At the first part of this year, Allen County approached me and said that they would like to reach out to one of my deputies and offer him a job. He had not been seeking a job. They just knew what a great deputy he was, and I said, absolutely, that's a great opportunity for him. I gave him glowing reviews, and I was so happy for him. But that said, I was also very worried, because Chad worked a lot of full-time hours, or a lot of hours during the day. I work full-time during the day, and I was very worried how I was going to replace him. Not just fund-wise, but by the time I send someone through the 40-hour death investigation training and they complete their year-long externship, that's a year or more that I'm down a person. And you can't send people out before they're through with their training. So I was sweating it. I was praying a lot. And by, I believe, divine intervention, within a very short amount of time, I had 3 fully certified medical legal death investigators coming from other counties asking if I would hire them. So I hired one. She's actually a volunteer with the Allen County Coroner's Office. She also is a diener with the Northeast Indiana Forensic Center, and she teaches scene photography. She just got back from a medical missions trip. She's phenomenal. So I have the other one doing job shadowing with us just in case something else were to happen. And then the third one is waiting in the wings. So not only have I saved a lot of money on training, I've also not had a nervous breakdown trying to figure out how to cover all of the day shift hours that I was working. You provided us with an emergency vehicle, a brand new emergency responder vehicle. We've never had anything new before. I thank you for that. We have been to 573 Touch-a-Truck events. I'm exaggerating that number, but it feels like we've been there. Dave and I take that van everywhere. If the weather's, if it's a heat warning, if there's a storm, we are still there because we want to get that vehicle out. We want to touch the public. We want to do education. We were the only coroner's office in the entire state of Indiana to be invited to a statewide emergency responder vehicle event. We were the only one to attend, and we've already been invited back again next year. I've spent a great deal of time educating the public. I've taken time off of my full-time job as a nurse during the day, like I am today, to do education with area high schools, their criminal justice classes. I also have had classes with physicians and other nurse, advanced practitioners, such as nurse practitioners and PAs on what our role is here in the community, and then how to complete death certificates, because believe it or not, a lot of these people do not know the correct way to complete a death certificate. We are also involved in suicide and overdose fatality review team meetings, child fatality review team meetings. We attended a prom crash reenactment in an effort to decrease the likelihood of crashes during prom season when people are driving distracted or they're driving impaired. We have a brand new case management system that is hosted through the state of Indiana. They built the main part of that, then each county had to build onto that. I'm not IT oriented whatsoever, but I did finish the build of our CoHero system, and when I finished our CoHero system, I reached out to our neighboring counties to Bend, and I helped them build their system as well. And I wanted to finish by saying, so February 13th of this year, we were asked to respond to the scene, a rural outdoor scene of an unidentified decedent. And on scene, one of the officers said to me, "It is very likely we will never know who this person is." And by late that night, the decedent had been identified as a missing person out of another state over 4 hours away. She'd been missing for weeks. Her family and law enforcement had been searching for her. We were instrumental in that homicide death investigation. We were instrumental in coordinating care with all of the agencies involved, including the Indiana State Police. And I was able to contact her mother and tell her that while this was not the outcome anyone had hoped for, that we had treated her daughter with dignity, love, and care, and that I was going to bring her home to her family. So this job is an act of just love, and I am so honored to have been afforded this opportunity. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions before I start?
And if you haven't figured out, Jenny is very passionate about this job and has been an excellent coroner. And having dealt with coroners for 45 years, she has been one of the most active. And I believe you've even got some status within the Indiana Coroners Association. What is it you're doing there?
Well, I'm currently secretary-treasurer for the organization, and next year I will be the vice president.
So she is helping to train coroners throughout Indiana. And you can see that she gets a little emotional about this, and having dealt with her twice on my own personal issues, she is a very compassionate person and is very happy and very proud of the fact that we have you as a coroner.
Thank you so much. Looks like you're stuck with me also for another 4 years, since no one else wants this job. Thank you very much, and I did forget to sign in.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you.
Are we going to lunch?
Thanks for making us cry, Jenny.
Yeah.
You know, I try not to make girls cry too often, but.
I can't handle her when she does that.
Well, we're about 5 minutes ahead of our break, so I think what we'll do is recess for
I
lunch
think,
now.
yeah.
And Susan, we have